Angelina Novikov, youngest daughter of the Russian Mafia leader, was kept away from the public eye her whole life. Her sister Anna Novikov, however, was always in the spotlight. With her perfect figure and personality, everyone adored her. She was the sunshine and could do anything you could think of. She was everything any girl wished to be. But when Leone Agosti, the ruthless and dangerously handsome Italian Mafia king, demands a Novikov bride to seal a deadly alliance, everything changes. Dark, commanding, and impossible to resist, Leone is a man who takes what he wants, and his eyes are set on more than just power. What happens when ruthless and cold-hearted Italian Mafia leader is to be arranged in a marriage with one of the Novikov's sister? This is Book 1 of the Empire of Ash and Roses series. Book 2, Thorns and Ashes. Don't forget to comment, like, and subscribe to my YouTube channel if you enjoy this story. I will post a new book every Friday. Chapter 1. Angelina. Since the day I could read and write, my papa and mama gave me 3 simple rules to be followed. There was no such thing as not listening to these rules, or it would be followed by a punishment. A punishment I've had to already experience enough for me to even fathom breaking the rules. Number 1, always keep your mouth shut and your face to the floor, since that's where your worth is at. Number 2, never take the attention away from Anna. Number 3, never leave the mansion unless told to. Those 3 rules have been controlling my life since I could walk. Fortunately for me, I've gotten so used to it that it hasn't become too much for me to handle. Just follow Mama and Papa's rules, and I wouldn't get a punishment. Easy, right? Sighing, I look out of my window, trying to distract myself from my useless thoughts. I was told to wear no makeup and dress as average as I could today, since Anna's supposed soon-to-be husband would be coming over and me dressed up would take away her attention. Well, at least that's what she told me last night. I don't think I could ever take attention away from her anyways. No one could. Anna was probably the most beautiful girl I'd ever seen, and anyone who'd think otherwise was probably insane. She could speak multiple languages, play multiple instruments, was smart in every subject, and was as elegant as a girl could be. Anna got the best education and childhood growing up. I was always jealous of how she got new dresses. She got hugs from Mama and Papa, she got all the love. Ever since I was a child, all I got was nasty words and hits. It all started after my oldest brother Nikolai died trying to save me from an attack by the Spanish Mafia when I was 4 years old. His birthdays terrified me the most. Every year I was thrown into a small dark room and punished by my father for the death of his son. And every year it got worse. His punches would get harder and the punishment would last longer. This year I had bruises for weeks, the most I'd had in a while. A sudden loud knock on my bedroom door made me jump in surprise, and I quickly walk over to the door, opening it to find my mama, who walked in with an angry expression on her face. I drop my head to the floor and wait until she fully walks in before turning to her. I wonder what it is this time. Leone Agosti, the new Italian Mafia leader, will be coming over in a couple of hours to choose who he would like to take his hand in marriage for our alliance deal. Although we all know who he will choose, I need you to make yourself as invisible as you can. Mama says, and I nod my head, not daring to look into her eyes. They always get mad when I speak, saying it was a shame I was even given a mouth to speak with. Suddenly I'm grabbed by the collar and forced to look at my mama, who had eyes filled with too much hatred to be looking at her own child with, a gasp leaving my mouth. And you little slut better not say a thing when he comes over, or God forbid I'll have you locked up in a dungeon. She snarls, letting go of my collar harshly and pushing me down on the floor. I push my hands on the floor before me to soften my landing, while my mama storms out of my room, slamming the door shut. Tears fall down my face as much as I try holding them back, and I push myself back up, dreading having to meet this guy with Anna. If he was going to pick her anyways, why did I have to be forced to come? I was stood next to Anna, who was fixing her dyed blonde hair. She was dressed in a beautiful light purple dress and white heels. My father figured Mr. Ghosty would find it suspicious if I looked dirty, so I was told to wear jeans, a white shirt, and to leave my long dark brown hair down and brushed out. "Mama, do I look okay?" Anna says, a worried look in her face as she stands still for Mama to look at her. She was gorgeous. If anything, Mr. Ghosty should be worried about his looks even though I haven't seen him before. All I knew was that the Italian Mafia was not to be messed with, and far more worse than the Russian Mafia. "Of course you do, my sweetheart, don't you worry. Soon enough you will be the princess to the Italian Mafia," my mama says, smiling at Anna while holding her small face in her hands. My papa was checking his watch now and then, getting frustrated by Mr. Ghosty being almost 20 minutes late now. Suddenly the doorbell rings, and my papa walks up to the door, opening it to a tall man who was at least 6'7" with dark hair that was slightly messy and dark cold eyes. He was wearing a black button-up with 3 buttons open revealing his chest, and black dress pants with a belt. A tattoo of a cross behind his ear comes into my view when his head slightly turns. There was an older man also standing next to him, which I presumed to be his father. I couldn't help but be attracted to his looks, and when his cold eyes lock with mine, I'm pulled out of my trance and quickly look back down at the floor. "Ah, Mr. Ghosty, good to see you again, and your son, how much he's grown," my papa exclaims. "And you too, Mr. Novikov. It seems your daughters have grown into beautiful young ladies," he says, looking straight towards Anna with a huge smile as everyone takes a seat at the dining table. Anna was sat right next to Leone, and I was sat straight across from him and next to my mama. "Yes, Anna has grown into such a beautiful young woman. She'll be 23 in a couple days, the perfect age for your son," Mama says while looking at my sister with glimmering eyes. I move in my seat uncomfortably, as I feel a pair of dark eyes staring at me. I dared not to look up or else I'd get in trouble, so I just quietly cut my steak, hoping for all of this to be over already. I've heard quite the stories on Anna. She seems like the perfect wife, don't you think so, Leone? His father says, but no answer comes from his son. "What is your name?" I hear a deep voice say from across the table, and my eyes widen as I freeze in my spot, catching a glimpse of Anna, who also looked between us wide-eyed. My papa looked furious. Why was he asking for my name? Her name? Why, that's absurd. Why would her name matter? My mama starts but is cut off by the cold man. "Let's not drag this on any longer than it should be," he says with a scowl. I look over to my mama, who was glaring daggers into me, and Anna, who was doing the same. "Now answer my question," he says again, looking back at me with emotionless eyes. "Angelina is my name," I say quietly, trying to avoid his gaze. I didn't mean to stutter, but I knew that this wouldn't end good for me. I'd have to feel more pain than my body can endure again, by my papa. I'd be terribly punished after they left. "She is who I'll be marrying," he says soon after I say my name, and the whole table is silent in shock after what he's announced. Even the maids had their hands covering their mouth in surprise. "But she's useless and too young. Anna is perfect in everything, there's no reason you shouldn't pick her over," my papa yells, slamming his fist on the table. "My son has chosen. Either you take the alliance, or not." My eyes look up to Anna, who had tears rolling down her face, and my mama trying to comfort her. I couldn't really process anything after that. All the conversation sounded like was mumbles. Why would he choose me? Even though he was given a choice to marry the most beautiful girl, he had to choose me, and I'd be terribly punished for it. As soon as the Agostis left, Anna got up from her chair and slapped me straight across the face, leaving a burning sting. "What the fuck did you do, you slut? Did you fuck him already?" she screamed at me, tears still flowing down her face from earlier. I hold onto my cheek and look down, quickly shaking my head no. "Papa, she had to have done something. Why would he choose her over me?" she screeched, and my mama tried calming her down while my papa finished off the rest of his alcohol. "It's okay, Anna, we'll find someone better for you. That Italian motherfucker can take this bitch." My mama sneers as I stay sat quietly in my chair, still looking down at the floor. We can't do anything about it. If we hadn't made that deal, the Russian Mafia would be destroyed in seconds. They already have issues with us in the first place. My papa sighs, downing another drink. Please don't get drunk. That bastard only picked you because he knows you wouldn't complain when he fucks other women during your marriage. My papa sneers, while grabbing a fistful of my hair and pushing me down to the floor. Now get the fuck out of my face. He yells, kicking me on my side, a groan of pain coming from my mouth. Chapter 2. Angelina. The next morning, I was given the engagement ring from one of Mr. Agosti's workers. It was an expensive diamond ring, and as soon as my mama and Anna saw what it was, I was slapped across the face. This time I got a small cut on my face from Mama's ring, and the blood slowly came out at the same time. Anna threw the box with the ring at my face and stormed off crying. See? Even that Italian scum doesn't care enough about you to give you an engagement ring in person, worthless bitch. My mama scowls at me, walking out after Anna. Sighing, I kneel down and pick up the ring and its velvet box, and put it in my nightstand drawer. I decide on only wearing it without them around, or they'll get angry, like always. I feel more blood drip down my cheek, and I grab a napkin, quickly trying to dry it off while scurrying to find a bandage before the blood went everywhere. As soon as I found a bandage, I placed it over the cut, and lay on my back on top of the same blanket I've had since I was 7, and blow off a piece of hair that was tickling my face as I looked up at the ceiling. Why would that man choose me? Was it really so he can go mess with other girls, since I wouldn't say anything about it like my papa said? What if he was worse than papa? Thoughts of his cold, emotionless eyes flash in my head from last night, and just from that I could tell he'd hurt me. In fact, he looked like he would kill me if I ever did anything wrong. Miss Novikov? I hear a knock at my door, and open it up to one of our maids, Jane. She's worked here for 5 years now, and always had to clean up after Papa's mess when he got angry. Yes, Jane? I reply, looking at her with a small smile. All of the maids in the household knew how I would get treated, and always checked up on me to clean any injuries I got. Your father wants to see you in his office, she says, a sad look in her eyes as she glances over to my now blood-soaked bandage. I'll be right down. Thank you, I say quietly and close my door, going to brush my hair out before seeing him. My papa hated it when we had messy hair. He said it was distracting to his eyes, but I think it was because it reminded him of Nikolai. The most I rexed of him was his messy hair. He liked it that way. After I finish brushing out my hair, I walk down the long hallway to my papa's office, and as soon as I walked in, it smelled like cigarettes and alcohol. He motions for me to sit down, and I do as I'm told, sitting across from his desk. You called for me? I say quietly, trying to calm my nerves. You're moving out tomorrow afternoon, he says, lighting up a new cigarette and throwing the lighter back on his desk. What? Where? Mr. Agosti wants his little toy to move into his house no later than tomorrow. My papa sneers and my eyes widen. Mr. Agosti, I had to move in with that devil tomorrow? The maids will load all your stuff in his dirty car, so pack before morning. I don't want to see any of your shit left here. Now get out of my office. He mumbles, the cigarette dangling in his mouth, and I quickly stand up and walk out of the room, releasing a breath when I'm finally out. As I'm walking back to my bedroom, thoughts keep swirling in my head on how any of this was even real. On why some weak girl like me was his choice of a wife when someone so perfect was right in front of his face. He must be a psycho. He must just want me for torture, or just as his little toy like Papa said. Sighing, I pull out my small bag and start packing my few belongings. A couple of tops, 1 pair of jeans, pajamas, undergarments, deodorant, my hairbrush, and some chapstick that's nearly been used to death. Tomorrow I would leave this place forever. The one place I've wanted to leave for years, yet all I'm being brought to is another place of torture, and not one like this. One with the leader of the Italian Mafia. Chapter 3. Angelina. Miss Novikov? Are you ready? Mr. Agosti has arrived, Jane says from the other side of my bedroom door, and my breath hitches at her words. I was already feeling nauseous about the whole thing, but Mr. Agosti would be in the car with me too? I try to take in a couple of deep breaths and grab my bag, about to open my door but freeze when I realize I forgot the ring. Crap! I whisper to myself, quickly taking out the box and putting it in my bag. I'm coming, I say, opening the door and almost crashing into Jane, who was waiting patiently for me. Oh dear, you need a new bandage on that cut, the blood is everywhere. Here, I'll clean it up quickly before you leave. Jane gasps, cleaning the spot and putting a brand new pink bandage over it. Thank you, Jane. I'll miss you, I say, tears brimming my eyes. She was the only one who truly cared for me, and now I'd really have no one. I get pulled into a tight hug from Jane, but it's interrupted by my papa's loud voice yelling at me to come down. Sighing, I let go of Jane and quickly walk down the stairs with my bag. My hair was pulled back into a high ponytail, and I was wearing my blue jeans with a black crew neck that was too big for me. He didn't even bother coming inside to greet you. My mama snickers, looking me up and down. Watch Papa, she's just going to turn into his little slut like we all know she is. Anna mutters, giving me a dirty look. I try to ignore all their remarks and just walk towards the door, opening it to find an expensive-looking black car parked in front of the house. I hesitate at the door, scared to walk any further. Miss Novikov, let me take your bag, an older-looking man says with a large smile, holding his hand out. I slowly nod my head with a small smile and hand him my bag as he takes my hand, leading me down to the car. Was he really in that car? Did I have to sit next to that man the whole drive? My heart starts racing in fear when the older man opens the door for me, and I freeze when I see Mr. Agosti sitting in the car, dressed in a white dress shirt and black pants, his attention on his phone. His hair was slightly messy and his face cleanly shaven, the tattoo behind his ear now more clear to see. Are you going to stand there all day? He says in a deep voice, his attention still on his phone. And no, I mutter quietly, getting in the car and sitting in the leather seat. He even smelled nice. I tried moving myself to the farthest spot away from him, but the seats were awfully close to each other. My throat was dry, and I was suddenly dehydrated, feeling his hard gaze on me. I tried to ignore his staring by looking out of the window, wanting the drive to be over with already. Where's the ring? He mumbles after a couple minutes of silence. My eyes widen in realization, and I try to think of how to reply to him without sounding stupid. I just forgot to put it on, it's in my bag, I say, looking down at my lap and biting my lip. Was I in trouble? Do you have some sort of attraction to that window? Mr. Agosti says, annoyance dripping from his voice. I only now realize how close to the window I had squished myself into. Clearing my throat, I quickly move away from the window, shaking my head no. The rest of the drive was silent, and I couldn't help but look up at Mr. Agosti, who had the side of his head leaned on his fist, pieces of his dark hair falling over his forehead as he was looking at his phone. My cheeks suddenly turn red, and I quickly look away. How could one person be so good-looking? After a couple of hours, we finally arrive at the destination, and my eyes widen seeing the large estate. I move closer to the window, trying to get a clearer view of the beautiful scenery around the mansion. My old home was quite gloomy, but this place was beautiful. There were fountains and flowers everywhere leading up to the large mansion. The car slows to a stop and I walk out, taking my bag from the nice man from earlier. Thank you, sir, I say, smiling at the man. Of course, Miss Novikov, anything for you, he says, smiling back at me. Could I get your name? I ask the man before he leaves. My name is Antonio Mancini, miss, he says, and waves me a small goodbye before driving the car off into what I was guessing was a private parking garage. Sighing, I turn around and try to look for Mr. Agosti. I didn't exactly know where to go from here, or what I was supposed to do. My eyes suddenly spot him walking into the large estate, his phone next to his ear as he was talking in rushed Italian on a call. Am I supposed to just follow him? Hesitantly, I quietly start following wherever he was walking, and soon enough we're down a long hallway, his voice getting louder and angrier on the phone. I didn't understand a word. My eyes get distracted by the beautiful interior of the mansion, my head moving in every direction. In fact, I got so distracted that I completely walked past Mr. Agosti. And no, I didn't just normally walk past him, instead I accidentally shouldered him as I was strolling by. I freeze in my spot, my cheeks quickly reddening. I didn't dare to turn around, unless I wanted to experience hell. Suddenly the rushed Italian turns into silence, other than a couple last words, and the phone call ends. I hear Mr. Agosti's loud steps come near me, and I want to bury myself right then and there. What could I even do in this situation? It's not like I could just run. Were you following me? I hear his deep voice etching a thick Italian accent says, sending chills down my body. I didn't know where to go, so I followed you. I mutter, not having any better excuse. My back was still facing him, and his close distance was making me want to put a brick wall between us. Turn around, he says bluntly, and as scared as I was, I slowly turn around, looking up at him with wide eyes, surprised at how close he was to me. My heart was racing terribly fast. Was he going to hit me? Like Papa did? Was he going to tell me how stupid I am? I try moving back a little to make the distance between us larger, in fear. He was too close, hitting distance close. This man could easily kill me in seconds, yet here I was engaged to him. Put on your ring first. Then I'll get someone to show you around, he says, glancing at my cheek that had a pink bandage placed neatly on it from earlier. I nod my head and quickly kneel down to open my bag and take the ring from its box. I hear Mr. Agosti clear his throat, and from my view of the ground, I see him move a couple of steps back, his hands in his pockets. I'm confused at the sudden movement but ignore it and carefully slide the ring on my finger, standing up after the box was back in my bag. Your maid will be here soon. Stay here until she comes, he says in a nonchalant tone and walks away from me, going back on another call. I wait patiently, and soon enough a blonde-headed maid no taller than 5'1" was taking me to my room. We went up a large staircase and multiple long hallways. Finally we were at the room, and the maid, whose name I figured out was Allison, opened the door for me with a large smile. Miss Novikov, the room you will be sharing with Mr. Agosti, she says, and I look at her like she's crazy. I'm sorry, but did you say sharing? I have to share a room with that man? I say quietly, horrified at the thought of sharing a room with him. What if he tried to touch me? Miss Novikov, you are engaged to Mr. Agosti, and very soon to be married. It's only normal for you to share a room, Allison says, her eyebrows scrunched. Yes, of course, I reply nervously as I walk into the largest bedroom I had ever seen. There was a king-size bed in the center of the room, and a large window that showed a view of a lake and the gardens. You are the first woman to be in Mr. Agosti's room, miss. He's never brought any women to his room before, Allison says, a hint of mischief in her eyes. Right? I mumble. Probably not the first girl he's been with. Mr. Agosti has most likely been with multiple girls. There's no way he would stop doing stuff with other women just for someone like me, as messed up as it was. Allison says bye and that dinner will be ready at 7 p.m., and after she's gone, I put my bag on the bed, looking around the clean room. Not even one thing was misplaced. Sighing, I walk into the large bathroom and remove my clothes to shower. I didn't really have anything to wear for dinner tonight, other than my old clothes, so I just have to work with it. Walking into the shower, I notice his shampoo and conditioner, and hesitate on whether I should use it or not. Having no choice, I just use his hair products. It only hits me after I use them that he would probably notice me smelling like him. Would he get mad? Shaking my head, I finish up my shower and grab a towel, wrapping it around my body. After I somewhat towel dry my hair, I walk out to grab my clothes that had still been sitting in my bag on the bed. After changing, I sit on the bed that was way too comfortable for its own good, and check the time. 6:35. I look down at my unpainted nails and old clothes while sighing. Why would he have to choose me to marry? People would expect more from someone like his wife, but all they would get is me. Plain old me. I couldn't really do much to get ready for dinner, so I just brushed my hair out and put on chapstick, and after I was done, Allison came back to take me down to the dining room since I still didn't know my way around here. When we got there, the table was empty, yet filled with food. Maybe he was just running a little late. I decide to wait for Mr. Agosti to come before eating when I sit down, just in case he'd get mad at me or call me a pig for wanting to eat before he even arrived. 7:32. He's still not here, and I was practically drooling over how good the food looked. How much longer did I have to wait? Miss Novikov? A shy butler suddenly says, walking up to me. Oh, you can just call me Angelina, I say, smiling at the man. Ah yes, Angelina. Mr. Agosti doesn't usually come to dinner, so you should eat now, he probably won't be coming. The man says, a sad look in his eyes. Oh, that's unfortunate. I reply, trying to sound sad at what he said, but I wasn't sad at all. I didn't even want to eat in front of that man anyways, and now I got the food all to myself. That night, Mr. Agosti also, thankfully, didn't come to the room. He was probably busy.
Chapter 4. Leone. I can't believe you turned down Anna Novikov for her little sister. Matteo snorts while scrolling through his phone. Choe, what was going through your head? Anna is probably the hottest available woman you could have had, and you chose to be with her little sister. He says again, after I didn't answer him the first time he unfortunately spoke. I mean, I already had enough to think about, yet he had to come here complaining about who I chose to marry. It's not like I cared enough about the marriage, but if I had to pick anyone, I didn't want to get engaged to some stuck-up bitch who would annoy me all day. Angelina seemed to be the most tolerable of the two. Although she seemed scared of everything all the time, she was fine for me, and in some weird fucking way better looking than her older sister in my opinion. She's my fiancée now. If I hear more shit coming out of your mouth about her, I'll make sure you get a taste of it yourself. I mutter, trying to focus on all the work in front of me. Damn, didn't know you were already so whipped for her. Matteo laughs, and I look up at him with my jaw clenched. Vaffanculo a kai te morto, I scowl, sighing when my phone starts ringing again. Matteo was gasping in shock, as if he'd never said that before. Go fuck your dead family XS. Che. I say, through the call. What? Sir, your father has requested to move Miss Novikov into the estate this afternoon and wants you to. Before he speaks any more, I end the call and throw my phone on my desk. Who was it? Is your wife coming home? Shut the fuck up, I mutter, walking out of my office and outside to get in the car waiting for me. Sir, we're going to pick up Miss November. I know. Once the car finally gets there, we wait another 10 minutes until she comes out. I lean my head back in the seat, annoyed at how long she was taking. I try finishing up some work on my phone while I wait, trying to ignore all the text messages from my father asking how it was going. I hear the door open after a while, but no one comes in the car. Was she going to wait another 20 minutes, standing outside the fucking car? Are you going to stand there all day? I say, still looking down at my phone. There were now 32 unread messages from my father. And no, she says in a quiet voice. I could barely even hear her. I tried to look over at her, but she had squished herself as far as she could sit into the window. She had a softer face compared to her sister's, and much bigger eyes, almost like a puppy's. I look away, and go back on my phone, but after a while turn back around to check if she had her engagement ring on, which she didn't. I didn't really care much about it, but wanted to see her reaction to me asking about it. "Where's the ring?" I ask and notice her freeze in the spot she's in, a terrified look covering her face. I just forgot to put it on, it's in my bag," she says, looking down at her lap and biting her lip. My eyes voluntarily move down to her full lips and back up at her body that was still pushed up against the window. Was she going to sit in that position the whole ride? "Do you have some sort of attraction to that window?" I say, annoyed at her. Angelina shakes her head no quickly and moves back to a normal position, not making eye contact with me once. It was only then that I noticed a bright pink bandage on her left cheek, and I scrunch my eyebrows in confusion. What did she do? Fall on her fucking face? The rest of the ride was quiet while I was trying to calm my father down, but it was difficult trying to respond to his 55 questions. As soon as we get back, I get a call from Matteo, and was close to not answering it, but ended up just answering after he called twice. "E adesso?" I say in a frustrated tone while walking down the halls. "What now?" "Riguarda Santiago Delgado. Dice di non essere soddisfatto della quantità di oro che gli è stata data e sta minacciando alcuni dei nostri uomini finché non gli diamo di più," Matteo says in a hurried tone, and I almost laugh at him. It's about Santiago Delgado. He says he's not satisfied with the amount of gold he was given, and is threatening some of our men until we give him more. That Spanish bastard was so desperate for what he can barely have. No wonder his mafia is falling apart. "Dia quel bastardo spagnolo che l'affaire era di 40 chilogrammi e non ne attera di più," I say. Who the fuck did he think he was? Tell that Spanish bastard the deal was 40 kilograms, and he won't be getting any more than that. "And what about the men?" Matteo says. "Chiedi a un gruppo di andare a sparare al figlio di patana, quindi la sua mafia e gia rovinata comunque." I say, but stop walking when I feel someone hit my arm with their shoulder. "Get a group to go shoot the motherfucker then. His mafia is already ruined anyways." Looking down confused, with the phone still up to my ear, I see Angelina walking by cluelessly, until she freezes as if she's realized something. I quickly say bye and hang up the phone, walking up behind her. She was probably only around 5'6" at the least. "Were you following me?" I ask, leaning my head to the side slightly as I look down at her from the back. I didn't know where to go, so I followed you," she mutters, and I get frustrated at her lack of eye contact all the time. She was always either looking at the floor or staring off into space like a fucking bug. "Turn around," I say, and slowly Angelina turns around after a couple seconds of hesitation. Her lips slightly part when she notices our close distance, and her large brown eyes look up at me, a hint of red painting her cheeks. "Fanculo, fuck. Put on your ring first. Then I'll get someone to show you around," I say, glancing at her bandage that had a bit of blood showing through now. Angelina nods her head, and all of a sudden kneels down to open her bag and take out her ring. Clearing my throat at the awkward position, I decide to move a couple of steps back and watch carefully as she dug to find the ring in her bag and gently put it on. She was definitely different from the women I've slept with before. Confident, much more talkative than her, and had more mature faces. Angelina, on the other hand, just looked like a fucking puppy, with her big eyes that looked at me like those fucking dogs on the depressing dog adoption commercials. "Your maid will be here soon. Stay here until she comes," I say, after she stands up, and take one more glance at her before walking away and answering another call. 11:45 p.m. "So you're telling me your wife is home, and you never introduced me to her yet?" I'm offended, veramente. Matteo slurs, almost running into the wall of the club. "Truly." I lean my head back as I finish the rest of my drink, trying to ignore Matteo. He kept going on about how he wasn't drunk until he face planted in front of my face a while ago. I left him there on the floor. Unfortunately, he found his way back. "Leone, We know you're jealous that your wifey is going to fall for me as soon as she sees my beautiful face, but it's rude to not introduce your best friend to your own wife. Matteo groans and passes out on the floor, a quiet laugh still escaping his mouth. Rolling my eyes, I kick his arm away from my foot and lean back in the seat, checking my phone. I call Allison, Angelina's maid. What is she doing? She's dead asleep, Mr. Agosti. After that dinner, she just blacked out. It must have been really good. I hang up the phone before she speaks anymore and sigh, looking down at Matteo to see him still passed out. Oh, how unfortunate, a tall woman with red hair says as she grabs my hand, looking down at my ring. Her eyes trail up to mine, a mischievous look in them. Oh, not for me. It'll be quite unfortunate for your wife, though. She whispers as she moves to straddle my lap, but I push her off, an unnecessary scream coming from her. I dust off any diseases she might have put on me, and don't give her a second glance as I sit back down. I can't believe you just... Get the fuck out, I mutter, downing another drink as I look down at my phone. I wasn't that fucked up to go around with other women while I was engaged. Damn, you're fucking whipped as hell. Matteo grumbles from the floor, his hand raised up in a failed attempt to call for another drink. I glare down at him, wondering why his ex was even talking. Don't forget to comment, like, and subscribe to my YouTube channel if you enjoy this story. I will post a new book every Friday.
Chapter 5. Angelina. The next morning, I feel the heat of the sun rays on my skin as I wake up, stretching my body on the large bed. I'm about to finish stretching, but freeze when I hear the shower running. I didn't know he'd be in the room anytime soon, so I had just wore a cropped black tank top and short black cotton shorts to sleep in. I bite my lip as I try to decide if I wanted to hide in the blankets until he left, or go change really quick. My decision is suddenly rushed when I hear the shower water turn off, and I quickly jump out of the bed, going straight towards the dresser. As I'm about to reach the drawer with my black crew neck in it, the bathroom door opens and out walks Leone with wet hair, sweatpants and no shirt, his muscles clearly showing. For the first time, I see his entire arm tattoo sleeve, his skin a perfect olive tone. I stand there with my lips parted and my hand still reaching for the drawer, looking up at him like an idiot. Leone looks down at me confused, and I quickly move my hands behind my back, giving him a nervous smile that just gets ignored as he walks right past me, towards the large walk-in closet. Sighing, I open my drawer and take out the crew neck after he walks away, trying to pull it over my head. I get stuck halfway where my head is supposed to go, and I grunt in frustration, trying to push my head through. Was my head too big? I decide to walk towards the bathroom half-blind to do this, so Leone didn't have to see me struggling, but instead I forget there's a door on bathrooms and completely bump my head onto it, stumbling backwards. Ow, I groan, holding onto my head that was almost completely engulfed in my crew neck which was still stuck on me. Angelina? I hear a deep voice call my name and I quickly turn around, shivers running through my body at his voice. Yes? I reply, and silence fills the room after that. Suddenly I feel Leone's presence next to me, and a quiet gasp leaves my mouth as I feel his large hands gently pull down my crew neck, our faces too close for my own comfort as I looked up at him. My hair was probably a mess after all that. Thank you, I mumble, looking down. Maybe he wasn't as bad as I thought he was. Are you wearing my shampoo? He suddenly says, grabbing the top of my head and bringing it closer to his face as he smells my hair. My face burns red at the contact, and I quickly place my hands on his muscular arms to push myself away. I had no other one to use, I'm sorry, I mutter, looking down while playing with my fingers. As if this couldn't get any more embarrassing. No, it's fine. Use whatever you'd like in here. He replies deeply. I feel myself wanting to just run away from this position. Just talking to him made me nervous. Why haven't you changed this yet? He says, looking down at my halfway ripped off bandage and pulling it off gently, his large hand slightly grazing my skin. I didn't have any other ones, I say quietly, trying to avoid eye contact. It seems every time I looked at him longer, the more nervous I got. Why didn't you ask for one then? He asks, looking at the deep cut, and when I don't answer he lowers his head until his eyes meet up with mine, a piece of his hair falling from his forehead. Well? He says, and I could feel his patience growing thin, our eyes forced to look at each other from his position. Why you scare me, that's why. I blurt out while shutting my eyes, scared he would get any closer to my face. I'm not going to kill you, Principessa. He replies, moving away from me to pull a black Balenciaga hoodie over his head and walking over to the door. Princess. Before Leone opens the door, he turns around slightly to face me. Don't leave this room unless it's time to eat. Anything else you ask me, comprendier? He says, waiting for my response. Understand? I nod my head and the door shuts. What was I supposed to do in a room all day? Why was I not allowed to leave the room anyways? A knock sounds from my door a couple of minutes later, and Allison walks in with my breakfast, a large smile on her face. Mr. Agosti gave me these to give to you, miss. She says and hands me a box of princess bandages. I look down at the box, a hint of red painting my cheeks. Why would he care anyways? And here's your breakfast, I hope you like waffles. She says, and I give her a small smile while nodding my head, looking at the large waffles placed in front of me. After Allison leaves, I open the box of princess bandages and take out a Tiana one, carefully placing it over my cut. Papa and Mama never gave me bandages, as dumb as it sounded. Anna would always get the prettiest bandages, and Mama would put them on just for her, after telling her it would be okay when she got hurt. I used to always watch Mama and Papa read her storybooks every time she got a bandage to help her fall asleep. It was always the same story, an evil prince falling in love with a kind-hearted princess. After a quick shower and a couple hours of sitting in the room doing nothing, I decide to just go outside into the gardens for 10 minutes at least. It's not like he had cameras everywhere to catch me when I leave the room. And he was too busy to even notice anyways. After brushing my tangled hair out, I put my white shoes on and peek out of the door, checking to see if it was clear. I slowly walk out of the room, quietly shutting the door behind me. I only realize how bad my idea is when I realize that I had no idea where I was going. Looking around frantically, I try to find any door that seemed like it would lead outdoors, and land my eyes on two large brown doors with golden handles and the Italian Mafia symbol engraved into it. That had to lead outside, right? As I near the door, I hear muffled words, but as it gets clearer, my stomach drops and I freeze in my spot. Please no. Help. Someone fucking help me, please, please, I beg you. I hear a man cry out for his life, and I slowly open the door, seeing something I had never wanted to ever see in my life. Leone stood over the man who barely looked 25, a gun pointed straight at his head, and a dark, terrifying look on his face. My eyes water when I make eye contact with the man, his eyes pleading to be saved. Before I can even utter a word, an evil smirk plays on Leone's face as he digs the gun deeper into the man's head, and I hear a loud shot, a ringing sound in my ear as my face pales. I feel a rough hand suddenly grab my arm from behind, and I scream as I'm turned around to see a man I'd never seen before. He had curly blonde hair and bright blue eyes that looked down at me. What are you doing here, kid? How did you get in here? The man says, still having a tight hold on my arm. I try to explain to him, but there were no words forming in my mouth. I couldn't even speak after what I had just saw, still terrified at the cold look Leone gave the man before shooting straight through his head. Leone, do you know her? I hear the man say as he looks behind me, and I freeze at the mention of his name. I feel Leone's presence behind me, as his arm wraps around my waist tightly, and I'm pulled away from the blonde man and pushed closer to Leone's body, my back grazing his shirt. I wanted to rip his hands off of me, and run away as far as I could from this place. I was the daughter of the Russian Mafia leader, but never had I seen any of my papa's business. The sight of blood splattering everywhere floods my head as I try to keep calm. She's my fiancée. he says, a cold tone in his voice as I stand there, my body tense as ever. This is your fiancé? The man says, his eyes brightening at the words. My name is Matteo. Seems like a great moment to meet, no? He chuckles, trying to make a joke of the situation, but I just stand there still stuck in Leone's hand around my waist. Your fiancé doesn't talk much, Leone? Matteo says, a smirk forming on his face as I move my eyes toward the ground. It's silent for a moment, and Matteo clears his throat, walking away after noticing the tension in the room. As he's walking away, Leone pulls me closer to him by my waist, and I tense up at the distance as I feel his mouth near my ear, my eyes still watery. I told you to stay inside, did I not? Leone says into my ear, a threatening tone behind his dark voice. I just wanted some fresh air. I whisper, my back still turned to him. He had taken off the hoodie from earlier, and was just wearing a black shirt, his arm tattoos visible. I don't fucking care, next time you tell me instead of wandering around, capisci? He says, calling a random maid over to take me back to my room. I nod my head, and he walks away down another hallway as the maid takes me back to the room. Before we leave, I glance back at the doors and notice maids cleaning up the blood in the room, a chill running down my spine. I was engaged to a murderer. Chapter 6. Angelina. Miss Novikov, dinner is ready. Allison says as she peeks out of the door. I'm not hungry. I mumble as I look out of the window at the rain. It had been raining non-stop all day, the sky gloomy as ever. But you haven't eaten in days. What will Mr. Agosti say when he sees you like this, and with your wedding so close? She says, worry laced in her voice. It's not like I ever see him much anyways. I mutter, watching as a bird flew over the garden to get cover from the storm. I hear Allison sigh, and the door closes quietly. My eyes close as I lay down thinking of the past week. I've just stayed inside the bedroom, having no appetite to eat any food after what I had seen. The image of that man's blood flying everywhere kept haunting me. I haven't seen him in days, like usual. Yesterday I was told by Allison that the wedding would be in 4 days, and the engagement party tomorrow night, which meant I'd have to see my family. I had already gotten my wedding dress fitted, a gorgeous sleeveless dress that looked like something a princess would wear. Something Anna would suit more than me. The next morning, I decided I would eat breakfast since the engagement party was tonight, and I didn't want to pass out in front of so many people, especially my family. As Allison and I walked down the long hallways to the dining room, I could hear loud, fast footsteps coming my way, and right when I look up there he was, dressed in a perfectly fitted black suit. His hair was neat, and a phone in his right hand as he spoke in Italian over his phone. There were 2 other men walking behind him, one with a large brown envelope and another holding a black briefcase, fear evident in both of their expressions as they walked fast to keep up with him. As Leone gets closer, I notice Allison start to walk slower as if he was going to stop to talk to me. But just as I expected, he walked right past me, giving me a short glance before returning back to the call. Miss Novikov, does he ever talk to you? Allison says, trying to catch up with me. Not really. It's not like either of us wanted this marriage anyways. I sigh, tightening my ponytail as we continue walking. I don't think I've ever seen Mr. Agosti in a relationship, just a bunch of random women he sleeps with. Allison says, a disgusted look on her face. Not saying he's still sleeping with other women. You're beautiful, Miss Novikov. He's crazy if he were to cheat on you. Allison says in a nervous tone, speaking quickly. I'm sure he still sleeps with other women, Allison. He doesn't care about that sort of stuff. I mutter as I sit down at the dining table, patting the chair next to me for her to sit down with a small smile. I can't, Miss Novikov. This table is only for the Agosti family and their guests. Allison shakes her head, a nervous look on her face. At least take some food. It's not like anyone else is here to eat all of this. I ask her, moving a croissant back and forth in her face with a smile. Fine, but only this once, miss. She gives in, taking the croissant from my hand. Why does it sound so quiet in the house today? I question as I take a big bite of a blueberry muffin. Well, everyone's preparing for the engagement party outside tonight, miss. There's lots that need to be done before all the guests arrive. Allison says. I just don't know why we need to celebrate our engagement. It's not like we wanted this. I mutter as I sit back in my seat. I believe it's just for both the Russian and Italian Mafia to know the alliance is sealed. You must look and act your best, miss. They'll all be watching you tonight. Allison says, as we get up to walk back to the room. Great. Sighing, I open the door to the room, and my eyes widen at the sight before me. There were at least 8 people in the room holding makeup bags and hairstyling tools looking back at me. I stand in the doorway shocked, turning to Allison, who looked just as confused as I was. Who are you guys? I ask, my eyes searching the room and landing on a tall man wearing a large, extremely bright purple feather hat. The name is Frederick de la Fontaine, Miss Novikov. I'll be here to make you pretty before the party, the man says with a French accent while looking me up and down. Before I can even have the chance to reply, I'm pulled over to the bathroom by one of his workers, Frederick following closely behind us. Take a shower first, you don't want to stink up the place, no? He says and walks out while the women hand me different types of shampoos and body washes. After everyone leaves the bathroom, I stand there frozen, my hands full with all the shower products. What was going on? Well, hurry up, will you? We don't have all day, mademoiselle. Frederick yells, and I quickly jump in the shower, washing myself with the rose-scented products. As soon as the water turns off, the door opens and I'm wrapped with a towel and put on a chair. 3 women come up to me with waxing tools, and I widen my eyes in fear. I try running away, but quickly get pushed back down on the seat. Who hired these people? I shut my eyes closed to help the pain, feeling tears start to form as I'm waxed in too many places to count. I feel a breath of relief when the waxing is finally over. After they put lotion all over my body, I'm given lacy black undergarments which look more like pieces of string than anything. I'm not wearing that, I say, pushing the undergarments away from me as Frederick rolls his eyes. Oh please, there's only one person who's going to see you in it anyways. He grumbles and shoves it into my hands, my cheeks instantly burning red. What did he mean by that? I would never allow that to happen, married or not. Put the dress on too, it was chosen by that good-looking fiancé of yours. Frederick sighs, snapping his fingers at a woman who quickly pulls out a large fancy box and hands it to me. I take the box and scrunch my eyebrows together as I look at it. Why would he pick out a dress for me? Put it on already, we still need to do hair and makeup, Frederick says, shooing me away while I hold the box tightly in my arms. I look at myself in the mirror with the gorgeous black dress on. The satin material hugged my body tightly, and there was a slit on the leg, going all the way to my upper thigh. I let out a breath of nervousness. What if they all thought I looked like a slut? If Papa called me a slut just wearing jeans, what would he say now? Trying to ignore my thoughts, I walk out of the closet and the room falls quiet. Did I look that bad? La vache. You look beautiful, ma dame, Frederick exclaims, coming up to me with his hands clasped together. Oh my. I feel my cheeks go red at the compliment, and sit down on the chair as a couple women start on my hair and makeup. Thank you, I reply quietly, looking at myself through the mirror. I had never worn a dress anything like this before. In fact, I don't think I've ever worn a dress until today. Give her loose curls and natural makeup, her face is already gorgeous enough, Frederick says, a proud look on his face. I see Allison in the reflection of the mirror giving me a thumbs up with a big smile, and I smile back, about to give her a thumbs up as well, but my hand is pushed down when it gets in the way of the curling iron. Our work here is done, miss, you look gorgeous, Frederick says as I look into my reflection, my eyes wide. Was that really me? Now we should leave. Have fun with your fiancé. Frederick winks before leaving the room. Fun? With Leone? That would never happen. His idea of fun was probably just killing people. Mr. Agosti will be here soon, we need to get your shoes on before he arrives. Allison says in a hurry, bringing my nude-colored heels to me. I nod my head and pull the shoes on, looking down at the gold jewelry on my arm that matched my engagement ring. Frederick had given me a set of gold earrings, a necklace, and bracelet that he said came from Mr. Agosti with the dress. Suddenly a loud knock comes from the door and I quickly get up, walking towards the door. Just as I'm about to reach the handle, the door opens and Leone walks in as we almost crash into each other. I let out a gasp in shock, my eyes trailing up to his own. He was wearing a black suit and had his hair slightly messy as he looked down at me from head to toe and back up to my eyes. Our bodies were basically touching at our distance, and my eyes quickly avert from his dark gaze that was burning into me. I quickly back up and push my hair behind my ear, trying to calm my nerves. I couldn't deny that Leone looked good. I couldn't deny that his closeness made me feel something I'd never felt with anyone else. Something about the way he was looking at me was making me more nervous than I'd ever been, and it was setting a flame in me that I wanted to get rid of quickly before it engulfed me entirely. Let's go, Leone says in a deep voice, and I nod my head as I follow behind him, trying to keep up with his long legs. Why was he walking so fast? Suddenly Leone stops walking, and I end up bumping my head onto his back. Ow? I mutter, rubbing my forehead but stopping when Leone turns around and grabs my hand with his own, pulling it down. Let's try to at least act like we like each other, fatto? Leone says, and I slowly nod my head, looking up at him. Got it? What's with all the head nodding? Can't you fucking speak? He grumbles, annoyance laced in his voice. Sorry? I mutter, not sounding very sorry at all, as we're about to open the doors to the garden where the party was. I feel myself suddenly getting sick at the thought that soon I would be seeing my family again. What would they say when they see me? I feel Leone's gaze on me as the doors open and we walk out, all eyes on us. My hand unintentionally tightening in Leone's when I make eye contact with my mama. Chapter 7. Angelina. The garden looked beautiful, and there were bright hanging lights everywhere. Everyone was dressed in expensive-looking suits and dresses, their eyes watching us carefully as we walked through the large brown doors leading outside. Suddenly, I feel Leone's hand let go of mine as he walks up to a group of men to talk to, one of them being the blonde man I saw earlier this week. I walk up to get some water to relieve my dry throat, and as I drink the cool liquid, I move my eyes up from behind my glass to where Leone was standing, his tall frame towering over the other men he was speaking to. His eyes trail over to mine, almost as if he knew exactly where I was all along, and I quickly turn around, holding onto my glass of water tightly as I feel his burning gaze on me. Sighing, I look around the party, not really knowing what to do. I didn't know most of these people, and Leone had already left me, despite it being our engagement party. And of course, I suddenly had to see the one person I didn't want to talk to most. I take in a deep breath when I see my mama walk up to me, a dirty smile on her face. Anna walks closely behind Mama, dressed in a beautiful pink dress that hugged her body. Papa was nowhere in sight, probably busy at another one of his meetings. Angelina. I see you've already changed into his little slut, haven't you? My mama sneers, looking me up and down. A quiet laugh comes from Anna, and I just give them a small smile, so people didn't think we hated each other. Did your fiancé already ditch you? I'm not surprised. Anna scoffs as she looks me up and down. He's just talking to some people, I say, looking behind my mama to where Leone was. His jaw was clenched as he spoke to a plump old short man in front of him, the blonde man now gone. What was he so mad about? Who the fuck are you two? I hear a questioning voice behind me, and turn my head to see the blonde man's name that I suddenly recognized to be Matteo. Matteo wraps his arm around my shoulders and pulls me close to him, looking down at me with a sly smile, and suddenly throwing a middle finger up at my mama and Anna. I look up at him with wide eyes as my mama gasps in shock. "Do you know who we are?" My mama shrieks but gets shut up by Matteo's hand in her face. "I don't care who you are, this is the fiancé of Mr. Agosti, and you disrespecting her is disrespecting the Italian Mafia, understood, Granny?" Matteo says, rolling his eyes at them and taking me over to where the alcoholic drinks are. "We haven't gotten to properly meet yet, have we?" Matteo says, about to hand me a glass of wine but quickly moving his hand back and squinting his eyes at me. "Wait, how old are you?" he questions, keeping the glass of wine even farther away from my reach. "I am 18. I mutter, and he looks at me with a sly smile. "You really thought you'd get away with underage drinking, huh?" He laughs, and I quickly shake my head no. "I wasn't going to drink it anyways," I say, trying to defend myself as I watch him put the other drink away. "How about we go back to your fiancé? He looks a bit pissed right now." Matteo laughs, and I look over at Leone, who had one hand in his pants pocket and the other holding a glass of some type of alcohol. "Isn't he always pissed?" I mutter as we walk towards Leone, and I feel my stomach swirl in nervousness just at the thought of having to be near him. Matteo laughs at my words, and as we're walking towards Leone, I notice a dark look in his eyes as he looks down at the old man. Leone doesn't smile back as the old man starts laughing about something, and as we get close to them, my stomach drops at what he says. I feel Matteo's eyes on me as I stand there, the old man's back facing me, as I listen to the disgusting words leaving his mouth. "You like them young and fresh, huh? Did you fuck that Russian bitch already?" He laughs, as if it was funny. It sounded dry and harsh, as if he had been smoking his entire life. "You got lucky with her, she's got a nice ass, might have to let me get a try of that whore too." The old man continues, and I feel myself feel a type of anger I'd never felt before. I wanted to puke right then and there at his words. I usually would just let my family walk all over me, but I couldn't handle it this time. I was letting this man talk about me like I was nothing. And even worse, Leone was just standing there, saying nothing to stop the man, which made me even more furious. "Shut! I'm sorry you had to hear th." I ignore whatever else Matteo is saying as I march up to the old man as scared as I was. What was I doing? Suddenly I'm clearing my throat behind the piece of garbage, and he turns his head, looking me up and down as a disgusting smirk grows on his face. Leone looks down at me, a threatening look in his eyes, almost like he was telling me to stop, but I just shoot him a glare filled with a type of hatred I'd never had before and move my focus back to the man. Before I can even open my mouth, I'm grabbed by Leone and pushed right into his chest, his arm wrapped tightly around my waist as I try to fight out of his tight hold. "Let's not make a scene, Principessa. I'll deal with him later, bene?" Leone whispers into my ear while tightening his hold on me, and I glare at the man who was still looking at me like a wild animal. "Mr. Jones, I think I've had enough of your presence for the night," Leone says deeply, and just like that the old man nods his head, quickly turning to walk away towards a group of women. "Matteo, go keep an eye on him for a couple hours." Matteo nods his head, glancing over at me once more with a small smile before turning around and walking towards the old man. "Let go of me," I mutter when Matteo leaves, uncomfortable that I could feel so many eyes on me and Leone right now. I wouldn't be surprised if my mama and Anna were watching us right now, judging me. Leone slowly unwraps his hand from around my waist, his fingers leaving a burning trail on the thin fabric of my dress. "Perche? Do I make you nervous?" he says lowly, inches away from my body. I look down at my shoes, too afraid to make eye contact with him. "Why?" "Everyone's watching us." I mumble quietly, wanting this entire thing to just be over already. I gasp when his large hand suddenly grabs my chin, pulling it up to look directly in his eyes as he lowers his head to meet mine. "Speak up and look at me when you talk, fatto," he says, an annoyed tone in his voice as he looks darkly into my eyes and down to my lips. Got it? I'm about to reply when I see Anna behind Leone, laughing at me with a group of girls who were giggling and whispering words to each other. She probably thought he hated me and was having the time of her life over it, as she told every other woman who was also laughing at me. I couldn't let her just laugh at me this time, like I was nothing. Like how she always does and has done my entire life. And just like that, I look away from Anna and move my gaze back to Leone, doing the stupidest thing I could have done that night. I watch as Leone looks down at me confused, but all my frustration from Anna laughing at me clouds my thoughts as I suddenly lean in to kiss him. Don't forget to comment, like, and subscribe to my YouTube channel if you enjoy this story. I will post a new book every Friday. Chapter 8. Angelina. I watch as Leone looks down at me confused, but all my frustration from Anna laughing at me clouds my thoughts as I suddenly lean in to kiss him. Why did I think this was a good idea? I feel butterflies erupt in my stomach when our lips make contact, the warmth engulfing my body, as I feel him hesitate at first but then kiss me back. I had never kissed anyone before and I'm sure I was terrible at it, but something about the way he was kissing me right now was making me feel nervous and wanting more, and I didn't know why. Something about the way his hand was wrapping around my waist was making me feel hot inside, and I feel myself getting pulled even closer to his body as my lips melt into his own. I slowly pull away after realizing everyone was probably watching us, and look up to see Leone looking at me darkly. I quickly avert my gaze to the ground, my cheeks burning from what just happened and the eye contact we had just made. Damn piccola tigra, couldn't wait until the wedding night? I hear Leone say deeply, a hint of amusement in his voice. Little tiger. I feel myself getting even hotter at his words, and move my eyes up to look into his own, which were already looking down at me curiously, our bodies still close to each other from the kiss. It was an accident, I was about to slip and my lips just you know. I ramble out, internally cringing at myself for the terrible lie. Leone raises an eyebrow at me, and I clear my throat, turning my head away from his gaze in embarrassment while chewing on my lower lip. I probably look like a tomato by now. Was that your first kiss? He suddenly says. What? How would you know that? I say, my eyes wide as I turn my head back to face him. Was I really that bad of a kisser? You're freaking out over a kiss like it's the end of the world, he says, a small smirk growing on his face. He was probably enjoying how terribly embarrassed I am right now, since I've never seen him smile before, let alone smirk. Peef, no, I'm not. I say nervously, still trying to ignore all the eyes on us, especially Anna, who was glaring at me the entire time, the smile completely off of her face now. Do you always stand this close to people? I mutter, shifting in my spot and looking up at Leone, whose smirk was off his face now just as fast as it was on. No, he says, and I scrunch my eyebrows together, moving a couple steps away from him. It was as if, any time I was close to him, I couldn't control anything I did. Something about him was lighting a burning flame in my body that I didn't want to grow. Then why stand so close to me all the time? I ask, looking up at him confused. Because, Principessa, I can do whatever I want with you, and the fuckers here who keep staring at you will see that they'll never have you, capito, understood? And that was when I made the second biggest mistake of the night. I don't know where the sudden confidence boost came from, but it was not a good idea. Who says you'll ever get to have me? I'm not yours, and I never will be. I say and watch as his jaw clenches. My eyes widen as I see him look at me darkly, and I quickly turn around and walk out deeper into the garden where there wasn't anyone. The party was packed, so there was no way he'd be able to find me quickly. Sighing, I walk towards a fountain with fish and lily pads covering it, the fireflies lighting up the water as they fly by. Why did I say that to him? Trying to not think of what I had just done, I move my focus on the scenery. I had never seen this many fireflies in one place, and my eyes move back and forth trying to take in the view all at once. I find a firefly flying past me, and I quickly try grabbing it, wanting to hold one like I used to do when I was younger. I miss and run all around the fountain, determined to catch one. Got you. I laugh when I finally get the small firefly, but freeze when I feel a large presence in front of me. My stomach drops when I look up to see Leone. A gasp leaving my mouth when I feel his hand on my lower waist, pushing me close to his body, and bringing his face down right in front of my own, our lips only inches apart. What are you? Do you want me to show all those people who you belong to the easy way or the hard way? He says deeply, a dark look in his eyes as he looks down at my lips then back to my eyes. I feel my heart start to beat insanely fast at his close presence, the smell of his expensive cologne intoxicating me, almost like he was trying to lure me into his lips. I guess that's just how guys like him are. They're good looking, and all of a sudden think they can have any girl they want. An idea suddenly pops into my head when I decide that neither of the options he gave me would be good. I slowly open my hand still holding the firefly and watch as it flies up and lands on the tip of his nose, a small laugh leaving my mouth as I watch his eyebrows scrunch together in confusion. The smile suddenly leaves my face when Leone kills the firefly, its body floating down to the grass, limp. What's wrong with you? I say, quickly moving down to pick up its dead body. The light from the firefly was gone now. It's just a bug, there's plenty of them. Leone mumbles, watching me closely as I hold its dead body in my hand. Still, it did nothing wrong. I say, my eyes watering, as I look down at the poor firefly's dead body in my hand while standing up. Are you seriously crying over that little shut? Leone says, looking down at my hand where the firefly laid and back up to my face. You're the little shut, not the firefly. I mutter, meaning to have said that in my head. I suddenly drop the firefly while I stand there in shock. What? Leone says, looking down at me, a piece of his hair fallen over his forehead. Leone's phone starts ringing, and I let out a breath of relief. He gives me one more look before turning around and taking the call. I take the chance to get away from him before I do any more stupid things and quickly walk back into the party, the music blasting throughout the garden as hundreds of people walk around socializing and dancing. I ignore Anna, who was nearly charging towards me, and walk up to Allison so she could take me back to my room. She had told me earlier to let her know anytime I needed to go back so she could make sure I got to my room safely. Allison, can we go now? I ask, and she looks up at me in relief. Yes, miss, let's get out of this place. She sighs, and I lock arms with her as we walk back into the estate. How did it go with Mr. Agosti? Especially after that kiss. Allison says, looking at me with a glint of mischief in her eyes. I feel my cheeks heat up at the mention of the kiss, clearing my throat before answering her. I ran away from him. I say, a small smile playing on my lips. You ran away from him? Why? She says, shocked at my answer. It's a long story. I sigh, relieved when I see the doors to the bedroom. I just wanted to get out of this dress and shower. Well, have a good night, miss. Call for me if you need anything. Allison says, and I thank her before walking into the bedroom.
Chapter 9. Leone. Where am I? Do you know who the fuck I am? The motherfucker, Mr. Joni screams, fear so clearly evident in his shaking voice. I was going to grab Angelina after she ran away because I wasn't finished with her yet, but I decided to just finish him up first. The room was dark, just how I wanted it. My head leans to the side as I drag the tip of my gun on his face, stopping it right in between his eyes. I push the cold steel farther into his skin as his body shakes, and click the safety off of my gun as his eyes shut tightly. Please, please don't do this. What did I do? I can pay you. He whispers, sweat dripping down his pale forehead. Sighing, I drop the gun to the floor, and notice his eyes flash some sort of hope in life when I turn my head back. I loosen my fucking tie around my neck while turning back around, my eyes watching in amusement at the man's state, as I walk back towards him and land a hard punch straight at his face, followed by multiple more. I couldn't give it to him so easy, after he had the nerve to talk shut about Angelina in front of me. My punches get harder when thoughts of other men speaking like that about her invade my thoughts, and his chair falls to the ground as I stand over him, not bothering to wipe the blood off my hands. Matteo throws me a metal pole, and I catch it without looking as I run a hand through my hair, walking closer to his shaking body. "Who the fuck are you? Why are you doing this? Please don't." He screams, and I hit the cold metal straight at his chest, a dry cough sounding from him as blood drips out of his dirty fucking mouth. "You're lucky I didn't do this in front of everyone." I scowl, grabbing him by the collar and throwing him back upright on the chair. The old man's face was now all bloody and beaten up, his eyes halfway closed before it widens when recognizing my voice. Mr. Agosti. "Mr. Jones, you of all people know not to mess with me, see?" He nods his head rapidly, not even able to form a word out of his mouth. Pathetic. "So why the fuck did you say that about my wife to my face?" I say, watching his bloody body frozen in fear look back at me. I watch as he tries speaking, but fails as he coughs out more blood. I bring my gun back up to his head, and the sound of the gunshot echoes in the room as I lose my patience. "Clean this up, I have business to attend to," I mutter, as I put the gun back in the holster on my pants. The maid nods as I walk out the doors, heading straight to what used to be my own private bedroom before Angelina. She had really thought she could run away from me so easily. I open the door without knocking, and stand in the doorway with my hand still on the handle as I see her walk out of the shower, just a thin towel covering her body. Unconsciously, I look her up and down. I couldn't deny her beauty as she walked out, still not even noticing me. I clear my throat to grab her attention when I notice Angelina about to take off her towel, as much as I'd like to see what was under. My eyes watch as her head snaps towards me, her lips parted when she notices my presence. What are you doing?" she whispers as I walk up to her small frame, her large brown eyes looking up at me as she moves back, hitting the wall behind her. I watch as she gasps when her body hits the wall, and a small smirk grows on my face. She was a mess, but for some reason I enjoyed it. My hand moves towards her face, as my thumb grazes her cheek over the small scar she had from the cut. Angelina's body tenses at my touch, her eyes moving down to where my hand was, then back up to my eyes. "You can't run now, can you, Principessa?" I mumble as my eyes gaze down to her body, the small towel barely covering her. "Shouldn't you be a gentleman, and let me put clothes on at least?" she says, a nervous tone in her voice as she tries to avoid eye contact with me. "Me? A gentleman?" I question, as I look at Angelina, amused. She had her hands tightly holding the towel against her body. I move my lips closer to her own as I feel her shaky breathes, a small smirk grazing my lips as I hold onto her cheek with one hand. "I think you've got me all wrong, Principessa. I'm nothing like a gentleman," I mutter, leaning in closer, but before my lips can come any closer, Angelina suddenly crouches down and runs off into my closet, shutting the door. "Why don't you can't do that?" she yells from the other side of the closet. I sigh as I move away from the wall and walk towards the closet. "Do what?" I say, acting like nothing just happened. Just let me change into actual clothes, okay?" she says quietly. "And how are you going to do that? None of your clothes are in the closet." It's quiet from the other side after I say that, until I suddenly hear shuffling. The door opens and Angelina walks out wearing my shirt, not making eye contact with me as she quickly walks over to her drawer and takes out her underwear, hiding it in her arms as she runs to the bathroom. Her face was red as a tomato as she went into the bathroom, my eyes watching her in amusement. I never let anyone wear my clothes, but for some reason I liked her wearing my shirt. I suddenly get a call, and I grumble in annoyance as I walk out, answering Matteo. "Anna Novikov is waiting in your office," she requested, well, more like annoyed the fuck out of me to speak with you. Matteo sighs. "What the fuck did she want?" "I'll be down soon," I mutter, hanging up the call as I run a frustrated hand through my hair.
Chapter 10. Angelina. I hear the door shut, and I sigh in relief as I stand in the bathroom, fully dressed now. I was still wearing his black shirt, the material drowning me. What was I thinking? Thankfully he left, and won't say anything about earlier. I walk out of the bathroom, wondering why he left in the first place. Am I really that uninteresting to be around? Why did I even care anyways? I couldn't let that kiss that happened earlier to ever happen again. He was trying to trap me into his stupid charms, and I had to control myself. If only I could just stop being so nervous every time he came around. Maybe it was because of seeing him kill someone that made me so nervous. Or maybe it was the way he always looked at me that made me feel so hot inside. I shake my head and angrily take off his shirt in annoyance, putting on my own with shorts under. Maniac. I mumble to the shirt as I toss it in the laundry bin. My hair was practically dry at this point, and I walk out of the bathroom, going straight towards the bed and flopping down on it. A sigh leaves my mouth at the comfort of the bed, and I close my eyes, finally being able to sleep after the long night. The next morning was filled with me just going to multiple meetings with the wedding planners. The colors were black and gold, and I was given a long list of all the guests invited. I didn't recognize most of the names on there, but knew they were probably all important people. The wedding would be on Friday. That's when I had to truly vow to be with Leone forever for my entire life, and I had no choice. The voice of the woman who was talking about some flower arrangements was drowned out as I played with the hem of my shirt. I was only 18, why did I have to get married? All I ever wanted was a normal life. Miss Novikov? Are you there? I hear as the woman's voice gets closer and my head pops up, watching as she looks at me with a worried look. Are you okay, miss? She asks, and I feel my cheeks heat up in embarrassment. Yes, I'm fine, sorry about that. I laugh, dropping my hand from the shirt. How about you take a break? It's been a long day. The woman smiles softly, and I nod my head, saying thank you before walking out of the room with Allison. You know, it's very kind of your sister to want to know your fiancé better before she hands you off to him. Allison says with a bright smile on her face, but I freeze in my steps at the mention of Anna. What do you mean? I ask, now curious about what she meant. She didn't tell you? Miss Anna was supposedly in Mr. Agosti's office all night. She wasn't seen leaving until very late at night. Allison says, looking up at me confused. I feel the urge to laugh at the words I hear, like I finally understood some sick joke. Me and Anna are not close. I mutter and watch Allison's face drop as guilt fills her eyes. Oh, miss, I'm so sorry, I didn't think he'd ever, or in fact she'd ever do such a thing. It's okay, Allison. I wasn't expecting much anyways. I'm going to the restroom now. I say, a small smile on my face as I turn around and walk away, feeling my eyes water. He didn't have to force me into this if all he would do is sleep with Anna. Everyone knows she's perfect, so why did he have to humiliate me? I feel warm tears fall down my cheeks as I walk into one of the guest restrooms in the hallway, shutting the door and locking it before walking up to the sink and splashing cold water over my face. Parts of my hair get wet from the water, sticking to my forehead, and I look into the mirror, my eyes red from the tears. I untie my ponytail and let my dark hair fall down my back as I run a hand through it, looking at my ugly t-shirt and jeans and my plain face. Sighing, I open the door and walk out, going back down the hallway to the bedroom like always. He wouldn't let me go anywhere else anyways. I was trapped. Anna was quite loud last night with Mr. Agosti, wasn't she? A maid giggles as she talks with a group of other maids, and I quickly stop, hiding behind a wall to hear what they were saying. Poor Angelina, he's cheating already and they only just got engaged. Another woman says, but the other women roll their eyes. Oh, we all knew it would happen anyways. Was he insane picking that little girl over Anna? She's so plain too. I'm sure he just picked her out of pity. Another one snickers, and I quickly move my head back, feeling more tears come up in my eyes. I quickly get off the wall, walking right past them, and as I do they get silent except for one woman who gasped, all their heads bowed down. I look up to see Leone walking the same way as I was, a confused look on his face as he looks at me, hanging up his phone call. Leone stops in the hallway when I get closer, thinking that I would stop to talk to him. I don't. I move my eyes away from him as I walk straight past him, not wanting to deal with him or with him questioning my tears. Angelina? I hear his deep voice say, but I ignore it as I keep walking towards the room. My heart rate increases when I hear his footsteps coming towards me, knowing he'd probably just hit me, but I didn't care anymore. What did I have to lose anyways? Caso juro Angelina, don't test me. He says again, his voice closer this time, and I'm stopped in my tracks when his rough hand grabs my arm, pulling me back. I fucking swear. What do you want from me? I whisper, looking up at him, my eyes still watery. What happened? And why are you walking around without your maid? He asks, looking down at me. I pull my arm off of him, looking away while trying to stop my eyes from producing any more tears. Do you think it's funny humiliating me? If you're going to go fuck around, at least keep it a secret. You've already ruined my life enough forcing me into this. I choke out, looking up at Leone, who had a dark look in his eyes. What are you talking about? He says, searching my eyes, and I almost want to laugh at him. I hate you, I say, and watch as Leone looks at the maids whispering to each other as they walked past the scene. He suddenly grabs my waist, pulling me over his shoulder as a shriek leaves my mouth, my legs kicking his back to drop me. What are you doing? I yell, punching him, but he doesn't budge at all as he walks down the hallways. Let me go. Before I can finish, a door opens and he shuts it, throwing me down on a bed, as he hovers over me, his hands trapping me in on both sides and a piece of hair fallen over his head. Finculo, and I thought you'd be easy to control. He breathes out, as I try pushing out of his grasp but terribly fail. Fuck. You've gotten pretty sassy, haven't you, Principessa? Leone smirks, but I just turn my head to the side, scoffing. What are you trying to do right now? I ask, looking up at his clean face and defined jawline, his eyes watching me closely. What woman was I fucking around with? He asks, and I look at him confused. Didn't he already know the answer to that? What do you mean? You should already know that. I scoff, feeling my cheeks heat up at our close distance. If it weren't for our position right now, I could have at least looked a little less flustered. Answer the fucking question, he says, and I glare my eyes at him. Get off of me first, I reply, and watch as his jaw clenches. Was he mad that someone like me was telling the big bad wolf what to do? Don't test me, Principessa, he says, looking into my eyes, but I don't drop my glare. What are you going to do about it? Kill me like you do with anyone else that gets on your nerves? And I'm not your princess. I scowl, trying to push him off, but Leone pins me back down, looking down at me with his patience clearly growing thin. Kill you? He laughs, and I look up at him with my eyebrows scrunched in confusion. Why was he laughing? You either answer the question, or I fuck you here so hard the entire house hears, Principessa. My eyes widen at his bluntness, and I feel myself getting red as I swallow the lump in my throat, looking into his dangerous eyes. Thoughts that shouldn't be in my head suddenly come out of nowhere, and I feel myself getting even more red as I try to avoid his gaze. My sister, you were with her last night, everyone's been gossiping about it. I finally say, noticing how pathetic I probably sounded. Leone looks at me for a second, and a sigh leaves his mouth shortly after as he pushes off the bed, running a hand through his dark hair. I quickly sit up from the bed, the sun blinding my eyes as it pokes through the window. I didn't do anything with her, he says. Then why was she in your office all night? She was pestering me all night. If she wasn't your sister, she'd already be dead. What's wrong with you? I say, looking up at his tall figure. He's always trying to kill someone, and it's always with serious intentions. My eyes widen when I see him walking towards me, and I lean back in the bed with my eyes shut tightly when his body comes dangerously close to mine, hovering over me with one hand on the bed. It's not like you like them anyways, isn't it? They don't seem to care too much about you, with the way you dress compared to the way your sister looks. He says, looking into my eyes which had slowly peeked back open. I turn my head to the side, not wanting to talk about this. My father would kill me if anyone found out about anything. He suddenly grabs my cheeks, forcing me to face him as he watches me closely. Am I right, Angelina? He says, even though he knew the answer. Let go of me. I whisper, looking up into his eyes. Are you sure? You seem to be liking this. He says, looking down at my now red face. I feel my heart start to beat insanely when his eyes gaze down to my lips, but I don't fall for it and quickly push away, walking towards the door. I have to go back to the wedding planning meeting. They're probably all waiting for me. I say quickly, turning around and walking out of the room while trying to cool down my burning face. This wouldn't be easy. Don't forget to comment, like, and subscribe to my YouTube channel if you enjoy this story. I will post a new book every Friday. Chapter 11. Angelina. One last thing, miss. When you come back to your bedroom after the wedding, did you want red roses or white on the bed? The woman asks, and I nearly choke on the water I had just taken a sip of. Excuse me? I say, coughing. I notice Allison in the corner trying to hold in her giggles, and I look at the wedding planner like she was insane. It had been around an hour since I ran away from Leone, and I was starting to regret coming back to the wedding planning. The questions were non-stop the entire time, and I was waiting for it to be over so I could go eat lunch while making sure I avoided Leone as much as I could. I'm sorry, miss. We only wanted to make your night extra special. If you want, we can add candles and wine as well as some condoms if you're not wanting kids just yet. None of that will be needed. I mutter, embarrassed enough as is. But miss, at least let us prepare something. Can we at least just fill the bed with the red roses? She continues with a smile and a look of determination on her face. I nod my head slowly in defeat, even though I knew nothing would happen anyways, and I wasn't planning on anything of that sort ever happening. At least not with Leone. A big smile spreads across her face, and she claps her hands together as she quickly walks over to write it in the notebook that was nearly filled. Allison, do you think I'll ever be able to escape this? I mutter, while picking at the pasta in front of me. Her head quickly shoots up, like she was just dozing off. The dining room was quiet, as usual. There were maids that walked back and forth occasionally, to fix any mess or refill my drink, but that was it. Silence. I don't think so, miss. Even if you tried to, Mr. Agosti would get you back. She says, a sad look in her eyes as she looks down at me. I nod my head, eating some of the pasta while looking around at the empty table. I felt trapped, like a bird locked in a cage. Angelina? What are you doing, looking so lonely? I hear a voice with an Italian accent say, and look up to see Matteo walking towards me, a boyish smile on his face. I'm just enjoying my extravagant life in this hellhole. I say, eating more of the pasta on my plate with a bored look. Why don't you come with me and Leone to work out? We're going to do some fights. Maybe you can let off some of that anger you have for him. Matteo chuckles, and I look up at him like he's crazy. Are you kidding me? With that psychopath? I don't even want to be near him. I scoff. Watch your mouth. I hear a deep voice say, and I freeze in my spot when I see Leone, his tall figure towering over everyone else's in the room. He was wearing a black button-up and black pants, a gold Rolex on his wrist, and his dark hair slightly messy. Where were you all day, man? I called you 4 times. Matteo grumbles, and I try to ignore Leone, continuing to eat the pasta. I couldn't lie, the chefs here cook some of the best food I'd ever eaten. Busy. I hear him say, and I feel a pair of dark eyes on me as I'm eating. I look up, but he wasn't looking anymore. "Hey, did you hear? Your fiancé is coming with us to work out," Matteo says, and I stop the pasta I was about to eat, looking up at him confused. I never agreed to that. Her? Call caso. He scoffs while taking his phone out, and I glare at him. What was that supposed to mean? Fuck no. I know how to fight, in fact, I love fighting. I say, standing up from the table, completely lying. I see Allison's face from the corner of my eyes, her eyebrows scrunched together at my words. It's not like I would actually be allowed to go with them anyways. Oh yeah? Do you want to test that out? He says, and I feel my stomach drop. Test that out? What did I just get myself into? I can still get myself out of this. Don't be such a ex, you're going to make some little girl fight you? Matteo says, Leone's dark eyes still looking down at me in amusement as I stand there, trying to hide the fear in my eyes. I glare at Matteo, a burst of confidence I really didn't need right now rushing through me. Don't be such a pussy, Leone says, looking at me like he knew I would back out. He thinks I'm just pathetic and weak, and maybe I was a little bit, but that didn't mean he could use it against me. And it especially didn't mean I would allow him to use it against me for his own enjoyment. My legs walk me right up to Leone as I look up at him, our bodies close as ever and a small smile on my face as I look into his dark eyes. He looks down at me, confused at what my intentions were, and that's when I said it. What? A pussy you can't have. I'm sure you're used to that, I say, and see Matteo's hand go over his mouth as he tries covering up a laugh. I see his eyebrow raise in amusement at my words, and I walk away from him, towards Matteo, who had already started heading towards what I was guessing the workout room. Allison had left already, probably since I was being accompanied by Leone. I didn't know Mr. Novikov taught his daughters how to fight, Matteo says to me, and my small smile quickly drops at the mention of my father. I knew what it felt like. I knew where he would hit next after each move, where it would hurt most. Sadly, I was never taught how to fight, I only saw it. Yeah, he sure did, I say, turning my head back to see Leone walking shortly behind us, running a hand through his dark hair. His eyes lock with mine and I quickly look back. Here we are, ready to beat your fiancé up, Angelina? Matteo laughs, opening the door for me. Hey, funny thing, I don't actually know how to fight, I whisper to Matteo as we stand at the door so Leone couldn't hear. What? Then why did you tell him you could fight? Shush, don't expose me, I whisper back, putting a finger on his mouth, and he raises both his hands in surrender. Suddenly Leone pushes between both of us, my hand getting pulled off Matteo's mouth from the push as I stumble back in shock. I glare at him as he walks inside, scoffing. It's okay, he's just jealous that I'm better looking, Matteo jokes, and I laugh while we walk in. I feel my stomach drop when I take in the sight before me. The place smelled like sweat and blood, and my body turns cold when I see two men fighting, their faces covered in each other's blood. Everyone in here was shirtless, either fighting using a punching bag or lifting weights, and I stood there in shock as I tried to take in the scene in front of me. I had to admit one thing, all the guys in here were attractive and toned, and nearly all of them were tall, except for one who looked to be around 5'0" running around and handing out water to everyone. Scared already? Leone says. Peef, no, there's nothing to be scared of, I scoff, crossing my hands across my chest. Pazzo, he says, and walks up the mats where the two men were fighting on, and just at his sight they stop, quickly walking off. Crazy? What does that mean? I say, looking over to Matteo. He called you beautiful, Matteo says, but I could tell he was lying through his fake smile. Sure he did. I sigh, my eyes trailing back over to the mat, and I almost choke on my own air when I see Leone unbuttoning his dress shirt. Show off, I can do that too, Matteo says, rolling his eyes as Leone removes his shirt, his toned abs showing on his tanned skin and his muscles clear. I feel my cheeks turn hot at the sight, and I quickly look away, covering my eyes in embarrassment. Are you coming or what? I hear Leone's deep voice boom, and I turn my head back, hesitantly walking up to the mat while trying not to look at him. I don't think I'm dressed appropriately for this, I nervously say, looking down at my t-shirt and jeans. I could feel the eyes of all the men in the room on us, curious as to why their mafia leader was trying to fight his fiancée. You don't have many options to choose from anyways, he says, taking his phone out of his pocket and throwing it on the ground like it was nothing. Although it was true, I felt personally offended. Taking a deep breath, I quickly tie my hair up, standing a couple feet away from Leone while looking up at him. I wasn't really sure how this worked. Did I just need to punch him? How long would this last for? Did I need to start it? Yeah, beat his ex Angelina. I hear Matteo yell from the side, and my fists move up to my face as I try to calm my nerves. He wouldn't actually fight me, would he? A scream suddenly leaves my mouth when I see Leone's fist come straight for my face, and I move my hands to cover my face in an attempt to block him. I slowly move my hands down when I don't feel anything, and notice a small smirk covering Leone's face. So much for all that shut talk, Principessa, he says, and I glare at him frustrated. I wasn't ready, you caught me off guard, I reply, chasing after him as he walks off of the mat. How about we do this somewhere else? He says as he walks towards where his phone was, picking it up from the floor. Chapter 12. Angelina. I scrunch my eyebrows together in confusion. What do you mean? I ask, feeling my cheeks grow red when he moves closer to me and grabs my arm, pulling me up to his chest. Do you want to go find out? His deep voice mumbles into my ear, and I shiver at the close distance of his lips, feeling my heart beat too fast for my own good. I feel his eyes burning into the side of my head as I swallow the lump in my throat, my body getting hot. I don't know what you mean, I say, pushing away from him and walking back towards the mat where Matteo was currently cheering on two guys who were fighting. I can't fall for his trap. I can't. I cross my hands over my chest as I stand there, watching the two men, before deciding it was too bluty for me to handle. Hey, I think I'm gonna go now, I muttered to Matteo, and he looks down at me like I'm crazy. You haven't seen the best part yet, your fiancé is up next, Matteo says, and as soon as my head is turned, Leone's fist was landing on a man's face, cheers erupting from all the men in the room. My eyes widen when I see Leone, his eyes dark and hungry, almost as if he enjoyed this. The man's face was nearly all blood now as Leone stood over him, his face getting beaten punch by punch. Everyone in the room had stopped what they were doing now, and were watching the fight closely. He's going to kill him, I screech, and I'm about to go throw a rock at Leone or something, but Matteo holds me back. He won't. Leone wouldn't kill any of his men for no good reason, Matteo says, and I watch in horror when he finally stops, the man wiping the blood off his face as the other men cheer at Leone winning the fight. What was this place? I'm done here, I say, quickly turning around. I didn't think I could last any longer in this animal cave. The blood was making me feel dizzy, even though I wasn't even the one fighting. And to think I told him I could fight him after what I just saw. Angelina, get back here. I hear him say my name, his deep voice sending chills down my body just by hearing it. What? I say, turning around to see him buttoning up his shirt halfway, the top buttons open as he runs his now clean hand through his hair and walks towards me. Where's the maid? What did I tell you about going alone? What am I, 5? I say, annoyed with his stupid rules. You've been running that little mouth of yours too much lately, haven't you? He says with his jaw clenched, grabbing my arm and pulling me behind him out of the room, as a gasp leaves my mouth from the sudden action. What do you think you're doing? I start as we walk in the hallway, but get cut off when he suddenly pushes me into some dark cleaning closet, slamming me against the wall, and I look up at him breathing heavily. His body was right up against mine, and a gasp leaves my mouth when I feel his hand move behind my neck, pushing me closer to his face, our lips nearly touching. "You speak to me that way one more time and there's no more warnings, understood?" he says, and I slowly nod my head, feeling myself just wanting him to get closer for some reason. What was wrong with me? His eyes look down at me, and I feel my heartbeat nearly beat out of my chest when his gaze moves down to my lips. "Kano," I start, but his lips suddenly slam onto my own, and I melt into his touch as he pushes me even closer by my neck, my hands unconsciously tangling in his thick hair. I feel my body heat up at his touch, gasping when he suddenly lifts me up, causing me to straddle his waist as he kisses me deeply. I hear a sound come from my mouth that I'd never heard before when his tongue suddenly forced entry into my mouth, feeling myself heat up when his hand moves down to grab my butt. "Kazo," Leone mumbles, pulling away from me. I suddenly realize why he stopped when I feel something against my stomach. My eyes move down but quickly move back up when I realize what it is. "Fuck." Leone moves away from me as I stand there in embarrassment from what just happened. I watch in confusion as he sends a message through his phone, not even acknowledging what just happened. I'm about to say something until the door opens and one of the short blonde maids walks in, smiling at Leone, and that's when I realized what was going on. "You called for me." The woman purrs, her hands on Leone's chest slowly moving down as she looked up at him. It feels like there's a rock in my throat as I look up at Leone, feeling my pathetic eyes water at the scene before me. I wanted to say something. I wanted to yell at him, but I couldn't even form words. What was I even thinking? My papa told me this would happen. I was nothing after all. I quickly open the door, feeling tears fall down my face when I hear him taking off his belt before slamming the door shut and walking out. "Hey, why'd you leave? Are you okay? Did someone hurt you?" Matteo says, running up in front of me to stop me from walking away anymore. I shake my head no, trying to walk away, but he grabs my arms, looking into my watery eyes. "Do you want me to go get Leone? Did someone do something?" he says, and a small laugh leaves my mouth. "You want to get Leone? What is he going to do? The only thing he's good for is using his ex on anyone he can." I scoff, and Matteo looks at me with realization. "That's what I thought," I say, quickly walking away while wiping away my tears and walking towards my very own personal jail cell. I open the door and freeze when I see hundreds of shopping bags from expensive stores and shoes laid out. The closet was filled with clothes for me in multiple colors and styles you could think of, and I scoff as I walk out of the closet. He could go get the maids he fucks to go return all of this, because I wouldn't wear any of it. I suddenly hear thunder coming from outside after my shower, and flinch at the loud rumble. It starts pouring outside, and I quickly walk over to the window, closing it before the water came inside. The thunder gets louder and louder, and I try to ignore it and just go to sleep, even though my hair was still wet. I cover my ears when the thunder sounds again, shutting my eyes tight while hugging the pillow on the other side of the bed. The lights suddenly flash off, and I feel warm tears escape my eyes as I try to ignore the storm. I never used to be afraid of storms, until Papa forced me to stand outside during them, as a punishment all alone the entire night. All I rex was the growling of the sky, thinking I was going to get swallowed whole by the storm and not have anyone save me even if I called for help. The darkness surrounds me, as memories of me screaming to be let in flash in my head. I hug the pillow even tighter, imagining it was someone I could feel safe with. Chapter 13. Angelina. "Angelina? Are you alive?" I hear a soft voice say, waking me from my sleep. I wince at the brightness of the sun in my face as my eyes slowly open. I was extremely comfy in the bed and really didn't want to get up. A knock sounds from my door and I quickly get up with a groan, opening it to find Allison holding a tray in her hands with a large smile covering her face. "Good morning, miss. I brought you breakfast," she says, and I smile softly as I take the tray while carefully walking over to the bed trying to not drop anything. "Thank you, Allison." I say as I open it to find steaming hot chocolate chip pancakes with syrup and fresh fruits, a glass of orange juice on the side. I almost drool at the sight of the food and quickly dig into the sweet pancakes. Wow, he really went all out with these gifts. Allison says, as she looks around the room. Everything was still where it was kept, untouched. You can take them, I don't want any of it. I say as I stuff my face with the food, looking outside through the large window. Why don't you want any of it? I'm sure Mr. Agosti spent a lot of time picking them out for you. She mumbles, and I almost want to puke at the mention of his last name, that I'd have to get my own changed too soon. I'm sure the maids he sleeps around with had a fun time picking them out. I snort, my pancakes nearly gone now. Allison looks confused for a second, until she looks over at my face that was probably still puffy from crying last night. Did you cry, miss? If you don't mind me asking, what happened? She asks, a worried expression covering her face. I debate on telling her or not, but decide I would. She was my only friend here and the only sensible one around this place. Leone and I kissed last night, and he just stopped at one point and started to text someone, and next thing you know a maid comes in. I mumble, thinking back to how pathetic I was. Was it a short blonde? That's Elizabeth White. She swears she's in a relationship with Mr. Agosti, but we all know the truth. Allison gasps, fuming with anger, and I nod my head at the description. I just don't understand. How could you kiss someone you know already hates you, and then just like that bring another woman in? I felt pathetic, and angry that I even let him kiss me. I mumble, my appetite lost. I focus my attention on the large room that seemed to be my own at this point, which I didn't mind at all. Allison, let's go on a walk. I say all of a sudden, before she is able to respond to my ranting. But miss the weddings tomorrow, you must save all your energy, and there's no way Mr. Agosti would let you outside. What's the worst he can do? Shoot me? I say, as I walk over to the bathroom to freshen up. See, that was easy. I say as I take in the fresh air, trying to distract myself from all Allison had said about Leone's fuck buddy. I wanted to not care, but little me wishing for my own prince to marry was having her dreams crushed right in front of her, and I hated every second of it. I hated every second I had to be with him. The sun kissed my skin for once in a long time, and I turned to Allison, who was looking around frantically, scared someone would find us. Oh, come on, Allison, loosen up. I say, and as she's about to say something, a scream leaves my mouth when the sprinklers suddenly turn on, the cold water soaking me. Oh no, you're getting all wet. I'll go turn it off, miss. Allison says, running to go find a way to turn the water off, but I ignore her as the shock from the water turns into me enjoying it as I run through the sprinklers, the soft grass underneath my now bare feet, as a laugh leaves my mouth at Allison's fear of the water getting onto her. It was stupid, but I never got to swim in pools like Anna got to do when we were younger, and this was the closest I'd get to it, so I was enjoying my time before I had to go back to the depressing prison indoors. Angelina, what the hell are you doing? I hear someone yell from a large balcony, and I freeze in my spot, looking up to see Matteo dressed in a suit. And on the large balcony with him were 20 other men dressed in suits looking like they were in some important meeting. I feel my stomach drop at the sight, and I look down at myself drenched in water, dressed in a plain t-shirt that went past my shorts. I hear the men laughing as they look down at me, and I turn red in embarrassment, my eyes moving back up to see Leone standing there looking down at me with his hands in his pockets, an angry look on his face. He was dressed in a black suit, his dark hair cleanly pushed back and his eyes burning into my own. I could barely even make eye contact with him, and I hated to admit it, but I couldn't deny how attractive he looked. What a beautiful young lady. She's just having fun, don't be so serious. An old man laughs, looking over the balcony at me. What's your name, sweetheart? He says, and I look up, pushing a piece of my wet hair behind my ear as I clear my throat. I was away from where the sprinklers had been spraying water everywhere, unfortunately. I was having fun, until this situation I put myself into. My name is Angelina. I say quietly, trying to avoid Leone's angry gaze burning through my head. "Where's your father? You shouldn't be out here all alone," he says, and I scrunch my eyebrows together in confusion. "She's my fiancé," I hear a low voice say, and the old man turns to Leone thinking he was joking, until he notices the seriousness in his face. He was looking straight at me as he said those words, and I clear my throat, looking away from him. "Fiancé? I apologize, Mr. Agosti. I never expected her to be so young." The old man laughs, no reaction coming from Leone. He gives me one more glance before turning around and walking back to the large table the men were sat at. Matteo gave me a small smile, and the water slowly turns off as I stand there rethinking my existence. Well, at least the water's off? Allison laughs nervously at the other side of the large gardens, and I quickly walk over to where she was standing, hidden away from the view of the men. He had the nerves to be angry at me after expecting he could just lock me up in a room my entire life. I ran to her, squeezing the water off of my wet shirt, and I look up when she doesn't respond. A confused look on my face when I see her looking out at the balcony. "What is it?" I say, and she turns her head to me, pointing up, my eyes moving to where her finger was being pointed. I feel my smile drop as I look at the woman Allison was talking about, Elizabeth, dressed in a short maid uniform and being extra touchy with Leone as she placed a drink in front of him. "She has no shame," mouths Allison, shaking her head, and I nod my head. I couldn't deny the beauty Elizabeth had, though. No wonder she got the attention from Leone when he's so cold towards everyone else. "Let's go, I need to take a shower," I say, laughing at my current state. I look like a wet dog. We start walking back inside, my shoes back on and my hair almost dry now, until I trip over someone's foot, landing straight on my face with a groan. I feel my body ache at the fall, and my knees bleeding from the force against the hard ground. "Oh my gosh. I'm so sorry, please let me help you up," I hear a voice say, and move my head up to see Elizabeth standing, her eyes watering as she held a tray of wine glasses. "It's okay, I'm fine," I say, getting up, wincing slightly at the cut on my knee. Elizabeth starts crying though, and I look over at Allison, who is giving Elizabeth a disgusted look. Why was she crying? You okay?" I say, not really knowing what to do in this situation. She had her head bowed down as she cried, her blonde hair covering her face. "Do you need anything?" I ask, about to put my hand on her shoulder, but she quickly moves back, dramatically falling with the glass going down with her and shattering everywhere. Coincidentally, all the men had finished their meeting and were walking in at the worst time. As soon as the men stepped in, she grabbed onto my leg, weeping now, and I looked down at her with my eyebrows scrunched in confusion. Why was she grabbing me? "Please don't hurt me," she screeches, and I try getting her hands off of my legs, but she had a death grip on it. "What's going on?" Matteo asks, and just after he says that, Leone walks in, his hands in his pockets. He makes eye contact with me before looking at the scene in front of him. I accidentally bumped into her, and she got mad and pushed me to the ground. Elizabeth cries, and I roll my eyes, crossing my hands over my chest. I knew what she was trying to do, and it was embarrassing to say the least. Really? All of this for him? At least try to get better at acting if you're not going to make your taste in men any better, I say to her, feeling his eyes burning into my head. I know he wanted me to look up at him, but I refuse to. "You clean up this mess," Leone says to Elizabeth, and she looks up at him, confused. Her face had dropped from anger to sadness, and for some reason I kind of felt bad. "You don't know my nom?" She doesn't get to finish her sentence before he walks straight past her, grabbing my arm and dragging me away from the scene and everyone who was watching it. I don't talk as we walk down the hallway, his hand gripping onto my arm, and as we take a sharp corner, I'm suddenly slammed against a wall as he cages me in with one arm, our bodies nearly against each other. "What kind of fucking game are you trying to play with me?" He scowls, looking down at me. "Me? I'm the one playing games? Funny world you live in." I scoff, my hands crossed over my chest. Listen, Principessa. I'm not here to deal with your jealousy problems. There is no real feelings with this marriage, so stop getting so sensitive about a relationship that was never there between us, inteso? He says, a laugh nearly leaving my mouth. I was never jealous, but now that you've explained it all, there should be no problem in me seeing other men too, right? I reply, watching as his eyes darken before a small smirk grows on his stupidly handsome face. I was surprised he hadn't shot me to death already. Not at all, he says, moving off of the wall and walking away. I let out a breath against the wall, pointing my middle finger up at his back before quickly walking the opposite way. Asshole. Don't forget to comment, like, and subscribe to my YouTube channel if you enjoy this story. I will post a new book every Friday. Chapter 14. Angelina. I'm going insane. I was waken up at 7 a.m. today, and have been moving non-stop since then. Allison had to make sure no one disturbed me today, so everything could go perfectly for the wedding. I had just finished a massage, which was the most relaxed I've been all day. We'll start on hair and makeup soon, but first I'll get you some fruits to snack on. One of the maids rambles on, checking things off of a list. The wedding was at 4:30, and it was almost 1:30 now. I sigh as I lean back in my chair, watching as the makeup and hair supplies were being set up. I was dressed in a pink robe, and my hair was fresh from getting washed, pulled up in a fluffy towel. Are you excited, miss? Today's the big day. One of the maids who I grew closer to today named Stacy said, her eyes glittering. I'm not sure she knew the true reality of this marriage that she seemed to adore so much. She looked to be in her early 20s, with long black hair pulled into a bun and bright blue eyes. I didn't want to ruin the mood for her, so I decide to keep positive. Of course I'm excited. I laugh and she smiles back at me. You must be so happy marrying the love of your life. She screeches excitedly as she hands me the plate of fruits filled with fresh peaches, raspberries, kiwis, strawberries, and pineapple. It is quite nice, I say, smiling as I take the plate but my eyes empty of any emotion. Stacy, that's enough speaking to the miss, get back to work. Another maid whispers to her, nudging Stacy's shoulder, and she groans before walking over to where the rest of the maids were setting up the hair and makeup supplies. You look absolutely gorgeous, Miss Agosti. Allison gasps as I walk out of the room, all the maids watching as they see how all their hard work turned out. I look at myself in the mirror with the gorgeous white dress on, my hair curled loosely, and diamond jewelry covering my neck, ears, and wrist. Wow. I whisper to myself, I never thought I could ever look like this, like I was a princess. Sadly, the beauty of the dress wasn't anything compared to what I had to agree to today, forever. I keep asking myself if I should just run away at this point and never come back, but I knew I wasn't capable of it, especially if I was thinking I could ever hide from the Italian Mafia. It's time to head over to the venue, miss, Allison says, and shortly after I'm escorted down to a shiny black limo by two of Leone's men dressed in suits. They had been looking at the floor the entire time, even when greeting me their eyes were glued to the ground. Weird. I get into the leather seats, smiling at the driver, but he quickly averts his eyes from me. I frown while leaning back in my seat, playing with my fingers. I look up at the two men through my lashes, wanting to create some small talk before it got any more awkward. So what are your names? I start, looking between both of them. They still had their eyes glued to the ground. My name is Joseph and this is Peter. He doesn't talk much, Joseph says, and I squint my eyes at them. What is it with them and the floor? The view of the floor must be very beautiful today, huh? I joke but they don't respond and I sigh looking out of the window, hoping the driver gets lost or takes a wrong turn on the drive there so I didn't have to go to this wedding. We unfortunately arrive at the large venue after a fairly short drive, and I could already hear the chatter of the guests through the other side of the large double doors I'd have to walk through soon enough. My eyes wander around the place that seemed like some part of a castle, gold rimming the large ceiling covered in gorgeous paintings. I feel a heavy weight in my stomach all of a sudden, trying to calm my nerves before I threw up. "Miss, are you ready?" An older woman asks me, and I try to hold in my tears as I nod my head. Joseph and Peter were at the entrance with 5 other men who I was 100% sure were armed, just in case anything happened. In fact, there were probably dozens of men from the Italian Mafia inside and outside of the venue armed, and I wouldn't be surprised if Leone was too. A very normal wedding for sure. I didn't even know who was invited to this wedding, if I'm going to be quite honest. All I knew was that I had to say I do or be buried alive. I stand in front of the 2 large doors, trying to keep my eyes from watering, as a woman fixes my dress before I walk down the aisle. Usually when you get married, you cry of joy. I never expected this is how my marriage would go. "It's been a while, hasn't it?" I hear a familiar raspy voice, and freeze in my spot when I feel a rough hand grabbing my arm tightly. My eyes turn to his own that looked at me with hatred burning in them, the same ones I had gotten used to my entire life. What are you doing here?" I whisper, my gaze quickly moving to the ground on instinct. I hadn't realized how different I had started acting when I was away from my family, but my real self was showing again, the one even more pathetic than the other. "Walking you down the aisle like a father should do." He snickers, his tough hand still on my arm as we stood in front of the doors. I hear music start to play, and the flower girl had already gone out, gently releasing the red roses from her small hands as they flew onto the ground. I felt like I was about to throw up, my eyes that I tried so hard to keep from watering now on the brink of tears when his sharp nails dig into my arm, and no one noticed because how could a father do anything to his precious little girl? "You better have not told that motherfucker anything," he whispers, a horrifying tone in his voice, and I quickly nod my head, trying not to gag at his alcohol and cigar breath. The doors start to completely open, and I suddenly feel hundreds of eyes on me, my hands tightening around the white flowers in my hands, as the sinking feeling in my stomach only gets worse. Taking a deep breath, I move my gaze up, locking eyes with Leone, who stood at the other side, a black suit on. He turns his eyes back in front of him at the place I would stand soon enough right as we make eye contact, now just the side of his head in view, the tattoo behind his ear showing and his jawline clenched. As always, he looked angry for no reason at all. We walk down the long aisle, and I hear gasps from the older women as I walk by them. The entire venue was decorated with white flowers, and beautiful lights hanging everywhere. The walk is finally over, and I feel my arm sting where my papa's nails release from the tight grip he had on my arm. Elm stood right across from Leone, as we stand underneath an arch covered in white flowers. My papa goes back to sit with Mama and Anna, who were both giving me disgusted looks, as soon as I looked over at them. I feel Leone's eyes burning into me, almost as if he was trying to study me like a map. The marriage officiant clears his throat, looking between us both before starting to read the wedding ceremony script. The venue was quiet now, all eyes on both of us as we stood there. I felt sick. "We are gathered here today to join Leone and Angelina in the union of marriage." The man starts, his voice clear and loud as it echoed throughout the large room. "This marriage is not to be entered into lightly, but thoughtfully and seriously, and with love and responsibility," he says, my throat feeling like it was getting punched over and over again. "Leone, do you take Angelina to be your wife?" he begins, and I look up at Leone, who had already been looking down at me. "Do you promise to love, honor, cherish, and protect her, forsaking all others, and holding only unto her forevermore?" "I do," his deep voice answers, no hint of hesitation. "And Angelina, do you take Leone to be your husband?" No, I don't." "Do you promise to love, honor, cherish, and protect him, forsaking all others, and holding only unto him forevermore?" I can't even form words until the marriage officiant clears his throat, looking at me patiently to answer. "I do," I say, nearly on the brink of breaking down. The officiant is given the rings, as he stands in between us. "Please repeat after me. I give you this ring as a daily reminder of my love for you." We repeat the words, and I feel chills on my skin when Leone gently grabs my hand, pulling it up to him as he slips the diamond ring on my finger. I shakily take the ring from the officiant, taking Leone's hand as I place the ring on his own finger. Before I move my hand away, he squeezes my own gently, and I look up at him, but he pretends he never did it. And now, by the power vested in me by God, it is my honor and delight to declare you married. Go forth and live each day to the fullest. You may now kiss the bride. The officiant declares, the cheers from the guests sounding like a blur when Leone takes a couple steps forward and moves his hand behind my neck, pulling me close as his lips come onto my own. I put my hand on his chest, gently pushing him back and moving my lips away from his own. I notice him looking at my red arm, and I quickly move it behind my back, my eyes noticing the look of hatred in my papa's eyes as he carefully looked over at me. The reception was shortly after, but I was taken to a separate room to get changed into my reception dress by a maid before going back out. It was a long white dress with a deep slit in the leg. I sit on the vanity chair, looking at my reflection through the large lit-up mirror. They fix up my makeup and brush through my long hair, and as they do, my focus moves to the large ring now on my finger. Miss Agosti, you're all set. I'll escort you to the reception. The maid says quietly, and I nod my head, getting up as she leads the way. Thank you. I whisper when she takes me in front of the door. I could hear the music and the loud chatter of the guests. I look at my arm, the red marks from my papa even worse now, and I sigh, just wanting to turn around and leave. What's a bride doing looking so sad on her wedding day? I hear a masculine voice say as I'm about to walk in, my head quickly moving to the side at the sudden voice. A man around 5'10" with hair so blonde it nearly looked white, looking at me with a boyish smile. Chapter 15. Angelina. What's a bride doing looking so sad on her wedding day? I hear a masculine voice say as I'm about to walk in, my head quickly moving to the side at the sudden voice. A man around 5'10" with hair so blonde it nearly looked white, looking at me with a boyish smile. Oh, I was just about to go inside. I laugh nervously, not knowing if I should be trusting him or not, especially since this entire ceremony was filled with people in the Russian and Italian Mafia. He holds out his hand to me with a big smile, his eyes glowing under the light. Of course, miss, the name's Sebastian Kuznetsov. I apologize for the late introduction. He chuckles, as I hesitantly bring my hand out to shake his own. You're Russian? I ask after hearing his name. Of course, it is quite disappointing seeing our Russian leader's beautiful daughter marrying that Italian scum. He sighs, and I scrunch my eyebrows together at his choice of words. Right? I say, moving my hand back from his own. Oh, come on, even I can tell this was all arranged. It's okay, I hate him just as much as you do. He whispers jokingly, but I don't think it was a joke. How did he even know our marriage was arranged? It couldn't have been that obvious. See you inside then. He's probably going to get angry if you don't get out there soon enough. Sebastian laughs, and I nod my head slowly as I watch him turn around and walk down the hall. I think I was more shocked he even talked to me. I had been ignored by every man today. They either looked at the floor or completely avoided me. Shaking my head, I open the door, and as soon as I walk out, there's multiple congratulations getting thrown my way. Miss Agosti, what a gorgeous young woman you are. An older woman says, coming up to me as she gently holds my hands, and I smile at her. Thank you. I say, and this goes on until the thank yous almost sounded like some foreign language. I hadn't seen Leone anywhere, or my family, which was odd since they were at the ceremony not very long ago. Every time I looked up from speaking to someone, every man in the room immediately looked down, like I was some sort of disease. The only people who've talked to me were also women, which was beginning to get odd. Did I do something wrong? I'm about to head straight for the drinks, until Leone's father suddenly pops up right in front of me, a glass of wine in his hand and a large smile covering his face. My daughter-in-law. I've been waiting for this day for years. He laughs, downing his wine, and I'm about to reply until he sees one of his old friends and starts laughing while rushing over to him and speaking in rushed Italian. I try to hold in a laugh as I walk over to the drinks. It probably wouldn't be good seen laughing at the former Italian Mafia leader. I start pouring some drink that looked like fruit punch into a cup, downing it in seconds. I scrunch my face in disgust after realizing it's wine, and quickly try looking for something else, but nearly everything on the table was filled with expensive alcohol. So where'd your prince run off to? I hear the same voice from earlier say, and I look up in surprise when I see Sebastian leaning against the wall next to the drink table, a glass of vodka in his hand. Typical. The bathroom. I lie, trying not to talk to him too much. There was something off about him, and it was making me extremely uncomfortable. He moves off of the wall, starting to walk up to me. I move my head back a little to make our proximity farther, but he just moves closer. He suddenly bursts out into laughter, and I look at him confused. Was this man crazy? Why do you look so scared? I'm not gonna hurt you, we're both Russian, aren't we? He chuckles. Yes. I say, my attention wandering toward the back of the large reception room when I see Leone walk in, speaking to Matteo harshly as he loosened his tie, looking frustrated. His gaze suddenly turns to me, and I quickly look back at Sebastian, grabbing his glass of vodka and downing it. Every time he came in the same room as I was, it made me stressed. Well, there goes that. He sighs, looking down at his hand still in the shape of holding a glass, except without the glass now. Sorry, I didn't mean to. I say, still trying to recover from the liquid that tasted like rubbing alcohol. Yes, you did. He jokes and I start laughing, my cheeks turning hot from the alcohol I had just chugged down. Maybe Sebastian wasn't all that bad after all. We should hang out sometime, as friends of course. Sebastian says, looking into my eyes. Sure, of course. I laugh, carefully putting the glass where the vodka had once been back into Sebastian's hand. Great, we can meet tomorrow then? He says, and I nod my head, looking over at the selection of alcohol. Which one should I drink? I'm in the process of pouring myself more wine, until I feel a strong hand grab my wrist, stopping me from pouring anything else. I look up at Leone, but his attention was on Sebastian, his eyes burning with a look of murder as he looked down at Sebastian's shorter frame. Mr. Agosti, I'm very honored to be meeting you. Sebastian exclaims, reaching out a hand to Leone, but he slowly retreats it when Leone doesn't give any mind to it. The feelings aren't mutual. Leone says, a chuckle leaving Sebastian's mouth. Well, thank you for the invite anyways, congratulations on the marriage. He says, looking between us. What invite? I never invited you. Leone says, his voice dangerous, like he was getting closer to just shooting Sebastian on the spot. I don't think he likes the Russian man. Anyways, it was very nice talking to you, Angelina, until next time. He says, looking at Leone nervously before nodding his head bye to me with a large smile and turning around, walking away. Until next time? What the fuck is that supposed to mean? Leone says to himself in an annoyed tone. Bye, Seb. I laugh at the nickname I had just created. Leone scoffs, running a frustrated hand through his hair. Who told you could drink? His deep voice says, as he turns towards me, and I groan in annoyance as I look up at Leone. Stop acting like my dad. I say, slapping his hand off of me and drinking the wine, but failing as some of it falls down my face and down my chest. Fortunately, it didn't get on my white dress. Oopsie. I giggle, grabbing a napkin and stuffing it down my dress, trying to clean the mess. Leone quickly grabs my hand, stopping me from doing anything else. Do this in the restroom, will you? He says, dragging me towards a hallway where the bathrooms were located. Hey, where did my family go? Did they leave early? I say as I'm getting dragged, moving my head all the way up to look at him. I felt dizzy. I gave them a little vacation. He says, letting go of my hand as we reach the restroom. Really? You know, I don't think they deserve a vacation. Where at? I ramble on. Hell, he says, opening the restroom door, and I walk in, too confused already to question his reply. I wet a napkin before cleaning the wine off of my chest, terribly singing "What Makes You Beautiful" by One Direction to myself. I notice more wine lower down my dress, and I struggle trying to clean it off, giving up and throwing the stupid napkin on the ground. I felt too dizzy to be trying this hard. I need help. I whine, hoping he heard me so I didn't have to try cleaning the wine off any longer. What? I'm not coming in there. Hurry, it hurts. I lie, an evil smile covering my face. My smile quickly fades away when Leone walks in. He turns around, about to walk away when he notices I didn't actually get hurt, but I grab onto him before he leaves. You're very, very, very disrespectful, you know. Help a lady out, will you? I giggle, stumbling when I let go of him. What is it? He grumbles, and I'm in the process of pulling down the straps of my dress to show him where the wine needed to be cleaned off, until he quickly stops me. What the fuck are you doing? He says, pulling my straps back up, and I roll my eyes. How else are you going to clean the wine, silly? I laugh, and he looks down at me like I'm crazy. Fanculo questa donna e pazza. Fuck, this woman is crazy. I frown at him speaking Italian, frustrated that I couldn't understand. The door suddenly opens and we both freeze as a woman walks in, looking at the scene before her. Oh, I'm so sorry, ma'am. He was just cleaning the wine off of my excess, I start, getting cut off when Leone puts his hand over my mouth. The woman's eyes widen and she quickly turns around, running out of the bathroom. I scrunch my eyebrows at his hand on my mouth and try biting it, but he removes his hand before I can. That's it, it's time for bed, he says, grabbing my hand and pulling me out of the bathroom. But you didn't clean the wine, I say, annoyed at his lack of helpfulness. Hey look, it's the guys from earlier, Joseph and Peter, I yell, waving at them with a smile. They quickly look down when they see me, and I groan in annoyance. Why is everyone ignoring me? I grumble. Leone just shrugs, a hint of amusement in his eyes. I look at him confused, ignoring it. I wonder where Seb went, I say, moving my eyes all around the reception room, trying to look for him before we reach the door out, but he was nowhere to be seen. Don't ever talk to him again, and drop the nickname, it's almost as bad as his real name, Leone orders, anger lacing his voice as we make it to the doors. It was quiet now, the music just barely could be heard through the halls. Why not? He's pretty nice and Russian, I say, looking down at his hands that were tightly clasped in my own. That's exactly why, he replies, opening the door to outside. The air was cold as it hit my bare shoulders and chest. Hey, I'm Russian, that means you can't talk to me. I frown, getting into the seat of Leone's black Bugatti after he opens the door for me. Good, he says, starting the expensive car. Put your seatbelt on, he says, looking over at me, but I cross my hands over my chest, looking away. No, you're rude, I say, and hear him sigh. He leans over, brushing his hand over my thigh when he grabs my seatbelt and buckles me in. I feel my body get hot, this time not from the alcohol. My head still felt dizzy, as I lean it against the window, closing my eyes slightly. I felt like puking, but I try holding it in as best as I could. Leone hands me a bottle of water, and I quickly take it, chucking the cool liquid down. The drive had been silent for 20 minutes, and I was feeling better from the water I had nearly chugged. My mind was also in a better state now than it was earlier. Why'd you kiss her? I mumble as he's driving, feeling his head turn to me slightly. It's silent for a second and I give up, thinking he probably wouldn't answer that question anyways. I didn't do anything with her, he says after a couple minutes of silence, and my head snaps up, looking over at him confused. What? Then why'd you call her over? I say, and for some reason I was happy he hadn't done anything with Elizabeth. Tu fai troppi domande, he says, and a scream leaves my mouth when he suddenly speeds up, a lot. You ask too many questions. Leone slowed down. I say, a small smirk growing on his face, and I glare at him. Asshole. We make it to the house alive, and I quickly unbuckle my seatbelt, opening the door and feeling relief when I realize I made it out alive. Leone starts walking into the house, and I quickly follow after, feeling my stomach drop when I suddenly recall what the maids had told me about decorating the room on the wedding night. Oh no. Chapter 16. Angelina. I quickly make myself come back to my senses when I realize he was already up the stairs and walking towards the hallway where the room was. My pace quickens, nearly to a sprint to catch up, but his long legs were not being helpful today. I'm about to jump in front of the door, but fail when he reaches the handle before I do, opening it swiftly. My eyes widen and he looks at the room in silence, still standing in the doorway. Great. What is this? He says, turning to me. I look around, pointing a finger at myself, as if there was someone else he could have magically been talking to. It couldn't be that bad, right? They said they'd only do roses. I move next to him to peek through the door, and almost choke on air at the room. There were red roses everywhere, candles lit up, soft music playing, and black lacy lingerie laid out on the bed with a basket of condoms sitting on the nightstand. I look in silence, contemplating my life. Slowly, I reach over his arm and grab the handle of the door, closing it. I could feel his eyes on me the entire time, and all I wanted to do was just run away at that moment. Well, that's weird, I exclaim, nervously laughing. Leone looks down at me, an eyebrow raised. You have interesting taste, Principessa, he says, opening the door back and walking into the bedroom. Why did he go back in? As if this couldn't be any more embarrassing. He walks over to the bed, one hand in his pocket as the other one holds up the lacy lingerie. He looks at the lingerie and then to me, looking me up and down. That's not mine, I blurt out, not knowing what to do in this situation. I was still standing in the doorway, not daring to go any farther into the bedroom. I watch Leone carefully as he drops the lingerie back on the bed, walking towards me. All of my common sense leaves my body when I turn around, about to run away, but his hand moves in front of me, closing the door so it shut in my face before I could escape. I jump when I hear the door lock, his left hand on the door beside me, locking me in. My eyes shut at his close proximity, butterflies filling my stomach. Why did he lock the door? Turn around, he says darkly, my body frozen in place. I was too scared to turn around. I didn't want to be a victim of his games. I didn't want to be used, just another one of his toys. No, I say hesitantly, reaching for the door to unlock it, but he grabs onto my hand. I gasp when he suddenly turns me around, his grasp on my hand tight. I push myself farther into the door, now facing him as he looks down at me, a dangerous look in his eyes. What do you think people do on their wedding night? He says, his voice deep and husky. I quickly move my head to the side, trying to ignore the question and his heated gaze, but his hand grabs my jaw, moving my head back to face him as he leans in, not breaking eye contact with me. There's nothing stopping me right now from fucking you against this door, for everyone to hear you screaming my name, Principessa. He whispers, his soft lips barely grazing my ear as he slowly moves back to being in front of my lips. I feel myself heating up at his words, wanting so badly to just move my lips a little more so they would touch. No, not again. He didn't care about me, all of this was fake. It would never be real. My chest moves up and down as I feel my heart nearly beat out of my chest, our bodies so close he could probably hear my heartbeat. Let go of me, I whisper hesitantly, looking into his dark eyes filled with lust. I gasp when his large hand suddenly holds onto the side of my face as he looks down at me, pushing my hair out of my face. Why did he make this so difficult for me? Are you sure? He says, and I feel my breath hitching as his lips makes contact with my jawline, moving down my neck. My hand unconsciously moves into his hair when he starts kissing down my collarbone, a moan leaving my mouth at his hot trail of kisses. Answer me. He orders, moving his gaze back up to my face, his eyes moving from my eyes to my lips. And no, I say, a gasp leaving my mouth when his lips move to my own, kissing me passionately as he pushes my body harder against the door. I moan when Leone's tongue forcefully enters my mouth, and he pulls my legs around his waist, pushing my back against the wooden door as I straddled him. I was just wearing panties under the dress, and could feel his hard through his pants pushing against me. I felt something else hard from the side of my thigh on his waist, painfully pushing on my thigh. What is that? I breathe out, barely even able to form a good sentence. My ex? No, not that, the other thing, it hurts. I say, feeling it pushing hard against the inside of my thigh. Without moving his dark eyes from mine, he pulls out a gun from his side, holding it in front of my face with a small smirk. I notice his initials carved into it, CA. Don't be so scared, you probably want to shoot me with this much more than I do, he says, and I scoff, looking at the gun that had probably taken so many lives. Sometimes I forget just how many evil things he has done before. So much for the cross tattoo behind his ear. And you would deserve every second of before I can say any more words. His lips are against mine again. He grabs my long hair in his fist, moving my head back as he kisses between my neck and my collarbone. Why didn't I stop him? I move myself closer against him, feeling my lower region burn in pleasure as a moan leaves my mouth. What was he doing to me? Fuck. He groans, moving me over to the bed as he pushes me down on the soft covers, so I'm straddling him as he unbuttons his dress shirt. I look up at him breathing heavily, my cheeks turning red at his tanned and toned body. Still want to kill me? He says, moving down and running kisses all over my neck as his hands slowly move the straps of my dress down, exposing the white bra and panties I had on. I always do. I'm cut off by my own gasp when his hands trail up my thigh, lingering at the straps of my panties. His lips move between my XS, and I feel his fingers finally reach where I wanted him. Oh gosh. I moan, my hands tangled in his dark hair when I feel his fingers moving against me. Does that feel good? He says, and I'm about to nod my head until his fingers suddenly push inside of me. Leone. I gasp at the sudden feeling, my hands now gripping in his dark hair as his pace picks up faster, the feeling new to me. My body fills with pleasure when I reach the end, and Leone lays me back on the bed, his body hovering over me. Go to sleep, he says, grabbing his shirt and walking out of the room, the door slamming shut behind him. I look at the door silently, my eyes void of any emotion. I wasn't surprised. I knew it would happen again, yet I couldn't even control myself. I felt dirty. I felt like another one of his sluts. I feel hot tears falling down my eyes as I walk over to the bathroom, spending an hour scrubbing at my skin until it turns red under the steaming water. Everything he says, everything he does means nothing, and I was crazy for even thinking it might have meant something, anything. Don't forget to comment, like, and subscribe to my YouTube channel if you enjoy this story. I will post a new book every Friday.
Chapter 17. Leone. I walk out of the room, slamming the door shut as I quickly move down the hallways, buttoning up my shirt. I run a hand through my hair in frustration, not bothering to completely button the dress shirt. I don't know what the fuck she was doing to me, but it wasn't good. I couldn't even bring myself to fuck her. Every time I looked into her damn puppy eyes, I saw someone who deserved better. She deserved love, and I wasn't the one who could give that to her. I knew she'd be mad at me, but I wanted that. I had to stop giving her any hope of anything ever happening between us. I hated to admit it, but she already had an affect on me, and I had to distract myself before it got worse. I slammed the door open. The room was dark as always. My eyes set on his pathetic frame still laying on the ground. I gave you time to decide if you want your life or not. Answer now before I shoot a bullet for every time you touched her, I say, downing a glass of whiskey before slamming the glass next to his head, feeling amusement at his terrified eyes pleading for mercy. You can't kill the Russian Mafia leader. My men will kill you. He spits, trying to break out of the chains he was tied with. "Is that a no?" I say, reaching for my gun and pointing it at his foot first. "Wait. You think killing her own father is going to help you? My daughter already hates you enough. Get her here and then decide, please." He pleads, his voice shaky as he speaks. "What were the bruises?" I say, tilting my head to the side. His body breaks down, and for the first time I had seen the pathetic man cry. "Me? It was me, okay? Just please, don't kill Anna, I can't lose another one." He whispers, coughing up blood, and I scrunch my eyebrows together. "And what about Angelina? She's my little girl. I know you'll keep her safe better than I did." He whispers, his eyes not even able to look up from the ground. I stand in the dark room for a couple of seconds in silence, before shooting a bullet through his foot and turning around as his scream echoes through the room. "I'll bring Angelina to see him tomorrow night." My thoughts moved to Angelina last night, her soft lips against mine, and her beautiful body wrapped around me. I tapped my pen against the large table. She had been on my mind all morning. It was just because I haven't fucked anyone in a while, ever since getting engaged to her. "Sir, did you hear that?" the woman says nervously, her hand holding the clipboard tightly. Everyone in the meeting room looks at me, patiently waiting for a response. I clear my throat, moving my hand to indicate them to continue. "Go on," I say impatiently when she still hesitates, but my phone starts ringing as soon as the woman started to speak again. I grumble in annoyance as I grab my phone, answering the call. "Sir, there's a man by the name of Sebastian Kuznetsov wanting to see Angelina outside of the door," Peter says, one of the two men I had told to watch over Angelina. I don't even reply as I hang up, feeling my body flame with anger as I slam my chair back, walking out of the room. My hand grips the steering wheel as I go 160 down the street, my eyes focused on getting back to the house. Bastardo del Caso. Fucking bastard. I slam the car door shut, seeing him standing at the front of the door. He's about to say something to me as I walk up, but I push him aside as I open the door, slamming it in his face. Peter and Joseph stand there, their eyes wide. "Sir, how did you get here so fast? I only called you 5 minutes ago." "Where is she?" I say, loosening my tie. My question is answered when I see her walking down the stairs, dressed up in tight jeans and a cropped white top, her hair loose. "Are you fucking serious? You invited it over." I scowl at her, but she ignores me as she walks past me. I get even more angry and grab her arm, preventing her from moving any further. "His name is Sebastian. And I thought we already decided we could talk to other people." She spits, trying to pull her hand out of my grip. "I told you not to talk to him, and you don't even know that motherfucker," I say. Her large eyes were looking up at me, hatred burning in them. "I don't even know you," she says, pulling away from my grip. Angelina turns around, walking towards the door, and my eyes unconsciously move down to her ex, but I quickly regain my focus. I stand right behind her, watching her carefully as she opens the door for him with no hesitation. "Angelina, I'm so glad we can meet again considering the rude welcome I got," Sebastian says, an ugly smile covering his uglier face as he glances at me. I scoff at him. "Of course. So, where are we going today?" Angelina laughs, completely ignoring my presence and walking out of the door next to him. "I was thinking the mall, there's one nearby." My eyes lock in on them, furious. What the fuck was she doing leaving with some man who looked like he smoked crack daily? "She's not coming with you," I order, as they were walking towards his car that was 100,000 at most. "She can make her own decisions," Sebastian says. He was getting on my nerves every minute he talked. Even the car almost looked as pathetic as him. "Just ignore him, it's not worth it," Angelina mutters, nudging his arm. I watch her, noticing her eyes trying to avoid mine. She was nervous, and it was obvious. "This is your car," I say, breaking eye contact with Angelina and walking up to the car. I glance through the windows, noticing how dirty the back seat was. I walk around the car, quickly memorizing the driver's license at the back. Yes, it was my father's. He gave it to me before he died. Looks like shut. I finish, walking away from the car and standing right next to Angelina. I looked down at her. She was glancing in the car, and I could tell she was hesitant but was too stubborn to admit it. And where's your car before you judge mine? He scoffs, looking pissed. His anger only made me feel better. Which one? Let's go, we're leaving now, Sebastian says, his tone filled with anger after my response to his question. He opens the door for Angelina, and she sits in the passenger seat. Looks like she's not so interested in you or your cars. Sebastian shrugs, and I tighten my fists together, watching the motherfucker drive off with my girl. I'm being nice, not killing him for the sake of traumatizing her.
Angelina's paw. I looked through the window, watching as Leone stood there, his hands in his pockets as he glared at me. I don't know why he was pretending to care, but I wasn't going to fall for any of his tricks any longer. Sorry about that, I don't know why he's like that. I sigh. I could tell Sebastian was mad at Leone. I thought he hated you, why was he being so jealous? Sebastian says, glancing over at me. Let's not talk about him. I say, trying not to think of Leone. This was my one chance I could be away from him. I knew how much trouble I'd be in when I got back, especially since Allison wasn't even with me. My eyes move around trying to look everywhere as I take in the view of the large mall. There were multiple stores everywhere, hundreds of people waking around. The ceiling was high and covered in glass. It screamed money, especially with all the stores being designer and the structure of the mall in general. I had never been to a mall before, or really I hadn't been anywhere much. Other than grocery stores, I was usually forced to stay at home, even when my family went on vacations. Is it really that intriguing? Sebastian laughs as we walk in, and I nod my head, smiling widely at him. Thank you for taking me here, I love it. I say, my eyes widening when I see a large water fountain. It was gorgeous. Just being here made me feel better. Other than the nasty stares I had gotten from the people who were dressed in expensive clothing, it was gorgeous here. I walk up to the water fountain, touching the cool water with my finger. How about we go get ice cream? I actually had something I wanted to talk to you about today, Sebastian says. How could I say no to ice cream? I laugh, pushing a strand of hair behind my ear and standing next to him as we walk to the ice cream shop. What is it you wanted to talk about? I ask, looking up at him curiously. I watch him hesitate for a moment, his face blank. Sebastian shakes his head, a small smile covering his face. Never mind, let's just talk about it after the ice cream, he says, trying to change the subject. You can't just do that, now I can't enjoy my ice cream because I don't know. I sigh, looking at the menu with all the flavor choices. Even the ice cream shop was fancy. I look at the prices, almost choking on air. Since when was ice cream $300? Maybe you should go somewhere more fit for your type, an employee says as she walks up to our table, an annoyed look on her face. I look at Sebastian, who is also looking at the price of the ice cream in shock. What kind of mall is this? He whispers, and I watch as the employee takes the menus from our hands. We only allow paying customers, please leave if it's not in your, budget, she says, giving us a fake smile. The door of the ice cream shop suddenly slams open, and 4 men in black suits walk in, their faces stern and lacking any emotion. The employee's eyes widen, her back straightening as they walk in. Straight towards us. Chapter 18. Angelina. The door of the ice cream shop suddenly slams open, and 4 men in black suits walk in, their faces stern and lacking any emotion. The employee's eyes widen, her back straightening as they walk in. Straight towards us. My stomach drops when the large 4 men move aside and Leone walks in. Just his presence alone made the tension in the room high, like everyone was afraid to do something wrong. He takes off his expensive-looking sunglasses, walking over to the table we were at, and taking a seat right next to me. I could feel his eyes burning into me, and not in a good way. I look over and feel my mouth run dry at the angry look in his eyes. I pretend I don't notice his anger, and quickly snatch the menu back from the employee, pretending like I was reading it. She deserved it anyways, for being so rude to Sebastian and I. Mr. Agosti W., what an unexpected visit. The woman says, stumbling over her words as she bows her head down. She hadn't been fazed at all by me taking a menu. In fact, it almost seemed like her eyes would turn into hearts at any moment now. Take my wife's order, he says, and I could still feel his burning gaze on me. I look at him and instantly regret it. He wouldn't break eye contact with me, and it was scaring me even more. I really did mess up. I don't want anything, I say before she has the chance to ask me what kind of ice cream I wanted. It's not like she was going to give it to me earlier, but now that he's here all of a sudden, I get one. Why are you being so grumpy? I'm just getting you ice cream, he says. His eyes follow my every move when I suddenly stand up from the chair. I felt nervous at his gaze as he looked my body up and down from his seated position. I don't want ice cream from you. Let's go, Sebastian, I say, my eyes moving to where Sebastian was not even 5 minutes ago, but he was nowhere to be seen now. Are you serious? Where is he? I say, walking right up to the stupid chair he was sitting in and looking down at him, my fists clenched as I glared at him. I hated how good he looked in that white button-up, his hair slightly messy, a chain on his neck, and that stupid glint in his dark eyes as he looked at me. Why are you asking me that? He says, and I laugh in disbelief. Was he insane? Fine. I'm leaving, hopefully to a highway where I can get run over before having to see you again. My sentence is cut off when he grabs my hand, tugging me down to sit on his lap effortlessly. A gasp leaves my mouth at the sudden action, and I try getting off, but he had too tight of a grip on my waist. You look good on me, he mumbles in my ear, and I turn red in embarrassment. Only then did I notice everyone's eyes on us in the ice cream shop. Especially the employee, who had been glaring at me the entire time. Where is Sebastian? What did you do to him? I scowl, fighting the urge to be fazed by his words. Say that name one more fucking time, and I'll make sure to end his pathetic life in front of your face, he says, his tone full of anger as his grip on my waist tightens. Would he really kill Sebastian? My eyes water as I look down at him, pushing myself off his lap as I walk out of the stupid overpriced ice cream shop. I bet it didn't even taste that good. I couldn't even have friends now without him threatening to kill someone. I shouldn't have even tried. I mean, what was I doing thinking I could make my life just a little normal at least? Where had he taken Sebastian anyways? This was all my fault. If I hadn't gone with Sebastian, he wouldn't have been taken by Leone's men. Where are you going? Leone orders, but I ignore him as I continue walking through the mall. My face contorts into confusion when I see all the employees bow their head towards Leone as soon as he walked by, but I ignore it as I focus on trying to stay away from him. I walk into Victoria's Secret. He definitely wouldn't come in here. I smile to myself at my achievement, but the smile quickly drops when I see him walk straight into the store with no hesitation. All the eyes of the woman go straight towards him with attraction as he towers over everyone, a pissed look on his face as he walks straight over to me. I start hiccuping from how terrified I was. There was no point in running anymore, so I just give up and let him drag me out of the store, his hand wrapped around my arm as I was being pulled behind him. I hate you, I grumble as I'm being dragged, my eyes glaring at the back of his head. Good, he replies, which just makes me even more pissed. My head snaps up when I see Sebastian being dragged out by two of the men in the black suits. He was trying to fight them off, but failed as they just held him tighter. I look in disbelief as the mall security just watched everything, not doing a single thing to help Sebastian. How are they getting away with this? I say, glaring up at Leone. I own this mall, he says lowly, as I watched Sebastian being thrown around like some rag doll. Of course he owned them all. No wonder why everyone was acting so respectful towards him. Don't forget to comment, like, and subscribe to my YouTube channel if you enjoy this story. I will post a new book every Friday. Chapter 19. Angelina. What is it with you and driving so fast? I say, terrified at the obviously illegal speed he was going. I turn my head when he doesn't answer, watching his cold, dark eyes focused on the road ahead of him, his jaw clenched. I swallow the lump in my throat, noticing how angry he looked. What was he going to do to me? I didn't think it would make him this mad. Memories of my papa beating me flash in my head after I had made a mistake, and I feel my face go pale. Would Leone do the same? Can you please slow down? I whisper, shutting my eyes in fear. What the fuck were you even thinking, going out with another man, and dressed like that? He scowls, his fist tightening on the steering wheel. Sebastian isn't like that, he's just a fryin'. Are you fucking stupid? He doesn't want to be your friend, how naive could you be? He spits and I glare at him, angry that he thought Sebastian was like that. We're just friends, and even if it was anything more, it's not your business. We already made a deal that we could. Not my business? Ah, Tesoro, everything about you is my business, and I never followed that deal to begin with. He says, pulling into his garage filled with more expensive cars than anyone could possibly need. Oh, sweetheart. What do you mean? I say slowly. He turns the car off and looks over at me, anger still so evident in his gaze. Would he hit me now? I shrink back in my seat when he leans in, his minty breath against my face as his dark eyes look into my own, a dangerous look in them. He looked ready to murder someone. Why do you think every man here is too afraid to so as look at you? He says, looking down at my lips and back up to my terrified eyes. So he was the reason why they all avoided me? But why do you even care? It's not like this marriage means anything. I whisper, trying to get farther away from him, but there wasn't much space in the car. He scrunches his eyebrows together, and it was silent for a moment before he spoke again. You're right, I don't care. He says, and I feel my seatbelt unbuckle, looking down to see he had unbuckled it for me before getting out of the car. Why was he being so confusing? Why would Leone care if any man looks at me, if he's claiming he doesn't care? Was this funny to him? I jump in my seat when the passenger door opens and Leone grabs my arm, pulling me out. Where are you taking me now? We're already at your stupid house. I say as he walks too fast for my liking. He just tightens his grip on my arm at the words, and I flinch from the sudden pain. I only realized then that he would go beat me now. I talked too much, didn't I? I keep my mouth shut the entire time we're walking, hoping he changes his mind about hitting me. I look around the place in confusion, never have seen this part of the mansion. It was dark and smelled horrifying, and I'm sure all the dark red stuff stained on the floors and walls were blood. I didn't even feel like puking at the condition of this place when I realized he wouldn't beat me. No, he was going to kill me. I feel my face turn pale, and my eyes start to water, but no tears escape from them. It was as if I was more afraid of the pain than death itself. Maybe it was better to finally be free anyways, but why was I so afraid? Would he torture me like he does to kill other people? Or would it be quick? We walk past multiple men dressed in dark clothing and holding guns, their heads bowing down as soon as Leone walks by. Their eyes avoid me completely, and I look up at Leone, his dark eyes completely focused in front of him. He must have noticed my gaze because his head turns, and he looks down at me. I quickly turn away, looking down at the dirty ground. I gasp when he suddenly pulls me in closer to his side, our shoulders brushing as he continues walking. We stop in front of a large steel door. It opens as soon as Leone stands in front of it, and we walk into the dark room. My eyes look around in every corner, noticing the multiple spider webs and blood stains. I hear a man's whimpering voice, freezing when I notice how familiar it sounded. I look up at Leone confused, but he just looks down at something, and I follow his gaze, my eyes landing on my papa who was laying on the ground, completely helpless. There was blood covering his entire body. "Your daughter is here," Leone says, his voice booming through the room, and my papa's head slowly turns to us, his eyes landing on mine. I had only seen this much pain in his eyes whenever Nikolai was brought up, and whenever he was beating me on Nikolai's birthdays. I freeze as I stand there looking down at him. Years of him beating me, and never acknowledging I was his daughter. I never would have thought this would ever happen. Angelina, I'm sorry." He struggles getting the words out of his mouth, and Leone looks at him in disbelief. "Why did you tell me to bring her here, if you were only going to admit to what you've done to her?" Leone spits, pulling his gun out, but my eyes widen and I quickly move my hand onto his arm. Wait," I whisper, looking back at my papa. "Nikolai, it killed me seeing my son die. I don't know what happened to me, but I only felt anger after his death." He chokes out and I feel hot tears running down my cheeks like lava, imprinting pain every time a new tear fell from my eyes. "So you took it all out on me? Ever since I was a child, you just treated me like nothing and beat me every single day, until I couldn't feel anymore," I whisper, my hands shaking as I look down at him. Alan, I hate myself for it. I just wanted to say I'm sorry before I die. I love you," he says, reaching his hand out to me, but I step back, shaking my head. I didn't know what to do. How was I even supposed to react to this? "Do you want him alive?" Leone says. His eyes were trained on me the entire time, and I slowly nod my head, watching as my papa looks up at me in shock. "I want to leave," I whisper, not even able to look at my papa any longer. He sounded sincere, and his eyes told the truth that he was, but every time I looked at him, all I saw was bad memories that kept replaying in my head over and over again. And it made me sick. To be continued. Book 2, Thorns and Ashes is available now. Marrying Leone Agosti was supposed to seal an alliance, but for Angelina Novikov, it feels more like a prison sentence. Trapped in a deadly game of power and deceit, she's caught between the shadows of her family's sins and the fiery obsession of her ruthless husband. Leone may control her world, but he'll never control her heart, or so she tells herself. Leone Agosti didn't choose Angelina because she was perfect. He chose her because she was dangerous. Her fire ignites something within him he can't afford to feel, and her defiance pushes him closer to the edge. But as enemies from both their pasts close in, and betrayal brews within their walls, Leone realizes that loving Angelina could be the one risk even he isn't prepared for. In a world where loyalty is a lie and love is a weapon, Angelina and Leone must decide if they'll burn together or destroy each other. This is Book 2 of the Empire of Ash and Roses series. Book 1, Roses and Bullets. Don't forget to comment, like, and subscribe to my YouTube channel if you enjoy this story. I will post a new book every Friday. And don't forget, the uncensored version is only available in Google Play. Thanks for listening.